Welcome to AI Otaku Studio. Like, subscribe, and enjoy this video. Chapter 1: Sharing the Blessing System. Chapter 1: The System of Sharing Blessings and Bearing Burdens. North City Plaza. Spirit Peach Plant Spirit, no innate spirit power. Spirit Blue Silver Grass Plant Spirit, no innate spirit power. Spirit Black Bear Beast Spirit, no innate spirit power. Spirit Hammer Tool Spirit, no innate spirit power. In North City Plaza, a middle-aged man was awakening spirits for the children in line. Every year at this time, there was a free spirit awakening opportunity in North City Plaza, and many children would come to queue up for their spirit awakening. This was because if they missed this awakening opportunity, they would have to pay to awaken their spirit. Deng Mu nervously watched the people awakening before him. It wouldn't be long until it was his turn. As a transmigrator, he knew very well that if he didn't have spirit power, he would be useless. In a world where strength was respected, without spirit power, he could only be an ordinary person. He didn't expect to awaken some heaven-defying spirit, only hoping to possess spirit power. As for whether he could have innate full spirit power, Deng Mu felt it was impossible. The probability of innate full spirit power appearing was similar to winning the lottery. The period he was in was that of Douluo Dalu, the unrivaled Tang Sect. Tang San, that old fellow, was watching the Douluo Continent from the god realm, making it impossible to become a god. Huo Yuhao, the child of destiny, was eventually trained like a dog by Tang San, which was truly pitiful. He certainly didn't want to experience such a thing. He only hoped to have spirit power, become a powerful spirit master, and then marry a few wives. That would be enough. A girl beside him held Deng Mu's hand and said to him, "Little brother, don't be nervous. You will definitely have spirit power." Deng Mu nodded, "I will definitely have spirit power." The girl's name was Jiang Nanan, Deng Mu's sworn older sister. A few years ago, Deng Mu's family encountered an accident, and before his mother died, she entrusted Deng Mu to Jiang Nanan's mother. Jiang Nanan's mother initially lived alone with him and Jiang Nanan. Fortunately, his father had given his assets to Jiang Nanan's mother before he died, asking her to take good care of him, so their lives as a trio were quite good. Soon, it was Deng Mu's turn. Deng Mu nervously walked into the awakening array. The middle-aged man responsible for awakening spirits injected spirit power into the awakening array. The next second, Deng Mu felt warm all over, as if his entire body was soaking in a hot spring, incredibly warm. Ding, sharing blessings, bearing burden system successfully bound. A mechanical voice rang in his ear, making Deng Mu incredibly excited. He hadn't expected that his golden finger would awaken during his spirit awakening. The moment the system appeared, Deng Mu noticed that everyone was motionless, as if a pause button had been pressed. Deng Mu guessed in his heart that it must have been the system's doing, directly pausing the Douluo time. This system is named the Sharing Blessings, Bearing Burden System. The host chooses to bind a person and can share the other party's blessings. The other party cannot share the host's blessings. If the host is attacked by others, all damage will be transferred to the bound person. Damage the host inflicts on himself will be converted to equivalent damage based on the bound person's strength, until the bound person dies, at which point the damage continues to transfer to other bound persons. When a bound person completely dies, the host can obtain everything from the other party. This function is only effective for the first bound person. Please consider carefully when choosing the bound person. Listening to the system's introduction, Deng Mu felt this system was quite unethical. Sharing the other party's blessings, all attacks he encountered would be transferred to the bound person, and if the bound person died, he could even obtain everything from them. The person he bound could only be said to have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Ding, the host has one chance to choose a binding. Please choose the person to bind. Tang San. Deng Mu silently spoke Tang San's name in his heart. It was a joke. For such a good thing, he definitely had to choose Tang San. Currently, Tang San was the sea god and the Asura god. His strength was at the God King level. By binding Tang San, he wouldn't have to worry about being killed by anyone in Douluo. In the future, when he had nothing to do, he could try to torment Tang San to death. Anyway, it was impossible for Tang San to know that he was the one doing it. Although binding Huo Yuhao would be good, given the current timeline, Huo Yuhao had only just awakened his spirit. binding him would be useless, and he might accidentally kill him. This kind of behavior was not acceptable. Deng successfully bound Tang San. Detecting that the host is currently awakening his spirit, beginning to share God King Tang San's blessings. Deng successfully shared God King Tang San's spirits. You have obtained the Blue Silver Emperor and the Clear Sky Hammer. Good heavens! Deng Mu was a bit surprised to see that he shared Tang San's spirit. He hadn't expected to be able to share spirits. If Tang San noticed him, would he suspect that he was his child? If his spirits were the angel and the blue silver grass, then things would get really interesting. If he could go to the God realm, that would be even more fun. The next second, their entire world returned to normal. Deng Mu subconsciously raised his right hand, and the blue silver emperor appeared in his palm. After awakening his spirit, Deng Mu noticed that he possessed the blue silver domain. He remembered that the blue silver domain had a disguise ability, resonating with external blue silver grass, to temporarily turn the blue silver grass within the domain into the blue silver emperor for his own use, greatly increasing combat power and isolating certain negative states. It allowed him to control all blue silver grass within the domain's range, using skills with the domain as a medium, and to use mental force to detect surrounding information within the domain. Moreover, the blue silver domain could evolve 3 times, each evolution providing a skill. Second evolution, blue silver range binding, a range type crowd control skill. Third evolution, myriad manifestations, assimilation, suppression. Final evolution, all rivers flow into the sea, the ultimate evolution of the blue silver domain. In places with blue silver grass, the domain can convert all the life force of the blue silver grass into any form of energy required by the blue silver emperor to replenish itself. As long as there is blue silver grass, the blue silver emperor's energy will not dry up. Deng Mu silently sighed in his heart, truly worthy of being the protagonist's domain. Compared to others' domains, it was like heaven and earth. The person responsible for the awakening had a look of seeing nothing unusual. He had seen countless blue silver grass spirits every year, and those with spirit power were pitifully few, but he didn't notice the golden patterns on Deng Mu's blue silver grass. All right, you can go test your spirit power. Deng Mu nodded to indicate understanding, put away the blue silver emperor, and walked to the crystal ball. Looking at the crystal ball in front of him, Deng Mu guessed that he should have innate full spirit power. Deng Mu extended his hand and placed it on the crystal ball used to test innate spirit power. A suction force emanated from the crystal ball. Deng Mu felt a surge of energy from within his body enter the crystal ball. As the energy entered the crystal ball, the entire crystal ball emitted a dazzling light. Innate full spirit power. The person responsible for awakening the spirit and the surrounding onlookers all showed shocked expressions. Although there had been many people with innate full spirit power in history, there was only one with innate full spirit power from blue silver grass, and that was Tang San, the sea god who became a god 10,000 years ago. They hadn't expected to actually see the second person with innate full spirit power from blue silver grass. Whether Deng Mu could reach Tang San's level was hard to say, but becoming a strong person would not be difficult. Chapter 2, Shocking Tang San's First Hammer. Chapter 2, Shocking Tang San with the First Hammer. Deng Mu was not very surprised to see the crystal ball emit light. After all, he possessed 2 top-tier spirits. Moreover, his older sister, Jiang Nanan, was also born with full spirit power. If he revealed that he possessed the Clear Sky Hammer, it would probably shock even more people. However, he didn't want to expose the fact that he possessed twin spirits, so as to avoid some trouble. Deng Mu ran up to Jiang Nanan and kissed her on the cheek. "Thank you, sister. If it weren't for your blessing, I might not have been born with full spirit power." Jiang Nanan, who had been kissed by Deng Mu, was a little embarrassed. "Then you must listen to your sister obediently from now on, and not always bully me." Their relationship was very good, but Deng Mu would sometimes play pranks on Jiang Nanan. Listening to Jiang Nanan, Deng Mu smiled and nodded. "I'll listen to sister from now on." After speaking, the two held hands and left the square amidst the envious gazes of the crowd, walking towards their home. Many parents were very envious of Jiang Nanan's mother. Not only did her daughter have innate full spirit power, but her son also possessed innate full spirit power. Then Jiang Nanan's mother would only need to enjoy her blessings at home from now on. On the way back, Deng Mu learned from Jiang Nanan that after his spirit awakening, his hair color had changed from black to blue. Upon learning this, Deng Mu didn't know what to say. He felt a bit like Tang San's illegitimate child now. Tang San would probably suspect he was an illegitimate child when he saw him. "Little brother, what do you want to eat?" On the way home, Jiang Nanan saw snacks being sold on the street and asked Deng Mu, who was beside her. After she became a spirit master, she could receive a spirit master subsidy every month, but it wasn't 1 gold coin, but 5 silver coins. Jiang Nanan was well aware that a portion of the money was embezzled by those distributing the subsidies, but she had no way to manage this matter. Every time she received the subsidy, she would give the money to her mother, but her mother would always leave her 1 silver coin for snacks. Deng Mu saw Jiang Nanan occasionally glance at the candied hawthorn and said with a chuckle, "Then candied hawthorn it is. Let's get 2 skewers of candied hawthorn." Listening to Deng Mu, Jiang Nanan went to the candied hawthorn vendor and bought 2 skewers of candied hawthorn. "Little brother, take this." "Sister, 1 skewer is enough for me. You eat the other skewer, sister." Deng Mu took 1 skewer of candied hawthorn and said to Jiang Nanan. Jiang Nanan gently stroked Deng Mu's head upon hearing this. If Deng Mu wanted both, she wouldn't mind, because she loved this little brother the most. The two ate candied hawthorn while walking towards their home. After returning home, Deng Mu threw himself into the arms of the beautiful woman. "Mom, I awakened 2 spirits, and I have innate full spirit power." The woman's name was Yan Yuhua, Jiang Nanan's biological mother and Deng Mu's godmother. She wore mended clothes, but they could not hide Yan Yuhua's perfect figure. Yan Yuhua was both surprised and delighted to learn that Deng Mu possessed twin spirits. "That's very good, little Mu, but you must not tell anyone else about this, understood?" She couldn't help but worry in her heart. They were just an ordinary family. How could they protect Deng Mu? Jiang Nanan, who was beside them, was a little surprised. She hadn't expected her younger brother to possess 2 spirits, but she wasn't angry that Deng Mu had hidden it from her. She felt that what Deng Mu did was correct. If he had said it in the square, it would have caused some unnecessary trouble, and perhaps attracted the attention of bad people. Deng Mu looked up at Yan Yuhua and said, "Understood, mother. I won't tell anyone else about this." He naturally understood what Yan Yuhua meant. The Douluo Continent Roman II era was not as safe as the Douluo Continent I era, and there were many evil soul masters on the continent. If evil soul masters knew about this, he might be killed by them. Although he was bound to Tang San and wasn't too worried about dying himself, if he implicated his sister and mother, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Yan Yuhua stroked Deng Mu's head and said, "Little Mu, what do you want to eat today? I'll make it for you." Deng Mu thought for a moment and said, "Mom, I want to eat stir-fried pork with carrots, and a little bit of ribs will be fine." The family's situation was only average, so eating expensive things was impossible, but he also didn't particularly like expensive food. He had eaten a lot of expensive food before he transmigrated, and he felt the taste wasn't that great, not as delicious as he imagined. The reason he asked for stir-fried pork with carrots was because his sister didn't like pork very much but liked carrots, so he asked his mother to make this dish. Jiang Nanan heard stir-fried pork with carrots and felt that it wasn't a big problem. She was already used to this dish. Yan Yuhua listened to Deng Mu and said with a smile, "Okay, we'll eat these today." She stroked Deng Mu's head and went out to buy groceries, planning to celebrate for Deng Mu tonight. Looking at Yan Yuhua's back, Deng Mu looked at Jiang Nanan and said, "Sister, I'm going to my room to rest for a while." Jiang Nanan nodded, "I'll call you when Mom finishes cooking." Listening to Jiang Nanan, Deng Mu returned to his room, sat on the bed, and pondered over something. After binding with Tang San, a bold idea popped into his mind, but he wasn't sure if it would leave any sequelae. "System, will any attack I receive be transferred to Tang San?" "That's right, host. If the host needs to fake injuries, that's also possible." Listening to the system, Deng Mu still felt a little uneasy. Deng Mu asked the last question, "System, will I feel pain?" "No." Knowing that he wouldn't feel any pain, Deng Mu took a deep breath and made up his mind. He silently got off the bed, locked the door to prevent Jiang Nanan from suddenly coming in, and then closed the window to avoid anyone seeing. Deng Mu silently took off his pants, summoned the clear sky hammer, and struck a certain spot. Tang San, take this hammer. God Realm, see God Palace. A handsome man with long blue hair clutched his crotch and let out a painful scream. The man's face turned incredibly pale, and cold sweat continuously streamed from his forehead. Third brother, what happened? At this moment, a gentle female voice sounded, filled with concern. The man heard the voice, gritted his teeth, climbed up from the ground, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and feigned a calm expression. The man was Tang San, who possessed the god position of the sea god and the Asura god, and was also one of the 5 great god kings of the god realm. Third brother. A figure appeared behind Tang San and walked towards him. Tang San turned around, looked at the newcomer, and asked with a calm expression, "Zyro Wu, what's wrong?" Zyro Wu, seeing that Tang San was fine, breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Nothing, I just seem to hear your scream." Chapter 3, about the Blue Silver Emperor's route. Chapter 3, the path of the Blue Silver Emperor. Tang San reached out and gently stroked Zyro Wu's head, saying, "You must have misheard. I was just deep in thought." Feeling a sharp pain, Tang San clenched his left hand, feigning a calm expression while internally groaning. Seeing that Tang San was fine, Zyro Wu also thought she had imagined it. The god realm was so safe, and her Sanji was so powerful, no one would dare to harm him. Tang San gently stroked Zyro Wu's head and said, "Zyro Wu, you go back first. I still have something to take care of." Zyro Wu said with a hint of shyness, "Sanji, I've been a bit needy lately. Come back early tonight." Although they were an old married couple, saying it out loud still made her a little embarrassed. Tang San smiled and agreed, "I'll be back early today. Zyro Wu, just wait for me at home." Zyro Wu nodded in understanding at Tang San's words, stood on tiptoe to kiss Tang San, and then returned home. Seeing Zyro Wu go home, Tang San quickly left, found a secluded spot, and checked his injured area. It's over. Looking at the injured area, Tang San only felt that things were bad. He now seriously suspected that the god of destruction had put a curse on him. Otherwise, how could he explain today's situation? Damn god of destruction, I'll remember this grudge. Few that should ensure Tang San's 6 senses are purified. Deng Mu retracted his clear sky hammer, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and muttered to himself. If what just happened had been seen by others, it would have been social suicide for him. The whole city would spread rumors that Deng Mu had strange hobbies, and he would have no choice but to leave, or he wouldn't be able to hold his head high in the city. He just didn't know how Tang San was doing. Could Tang San withstand his attack? After a moment of wild thoughts, Deng Mu opened the door, returned to his bed, and began to ponder which path would be better for his 2 spirits. Before transmigrating, he had seen many people online say that the Blue Silver Emperor was suitable for a life flow or support flow path. Deng Mu felt that he could go the support flow route. After all, he still had the clear sky hammer for offense and the Blue Silver Emperor for support, a perfect combination. When he thought about his first spirit ring, Deng Mu felt a huge headache. His family didn't have much money. His elder sister's first spirit ring was hunted with the help of a teacher from her school. Through his elder sister's connection, he could indeed get a spirit ring, but whether it would be a 100-year or 10-year spirit ring was hard to say. He couldn't possibly ask the other party to hunt exactly what he wanted. If others were willing to help him, it was out of their kindness, but he couldn't exploit their kindness to get exactly what he wanted. They weren't related, so how could they help to that extent? More importantly, his goal was a 1,000-year spirit ring to start. As for a 10,000-year one, he could only dream of it. Starting with a 10,000-year spirit ring would cause a lot of trouble. Schools in the Douluo Continent Roman II era were similar to those in Douluo Continent I, divided into elementary, middle, and high school levels. Students in elementary academies were divided into 2 types, ordinary students and work-study students. Work-study students were like those in Douluo Continent I, but the money they received was less. His elder sister, Jiang Nanan, chose to become a work-study student to lighten the family burden, saving money each month to give to their mother to help with household expenses. He planned to also become a work-study student when he went to school, using the money he earned to help with household expenses so his mother could live a better life. Sometimes he suspected that his mother's serious illness was due to the family's extreme poverty, his mother's overwork and malnutrition, which led to her severe illness. By preventing this situation, his mother wouldn't get seriously ill, and his elder sister wouldn't have to go to that place to save his mother. Forget it, tomorrow I'll go kill a 1,000-year plant spirit beast myself. Deng Mu thought for a long time and decided to hunt one himself. Anyway, the damage would transfer to Tang San, so he didn't have to worry about dying at all. He just needed to prepare something that could kill a spirit beast, and then he could absorb a 1,000-year spirit ring. His body couldn't handle it. No big deal, he still had Tang San to bear it for him. This kind of damage was nothing to Tang San. He already had a small goal in mind. His blue-silver emperor should have purple, black, and red spirit rings, while his clear sky hammer should have at least 3 red and the rest black. One-shotting a 10,000-year spirit beast at the start. That's unlikely. The opponent would completely overwhelm him. Winning would be impossible. If the opponent attacked a few times and realized something was wrong, they definitely wouldn't continue fighting him. So, finding a 1,000-year one was more practical. As for the specific age, Deng Mu hadn't decided. Encountering a suitable 1,000-year one would be enough, and he would decide the rest based on the situation. As for Tang San's set of skills, it wasn't suitable for him, and for a skill like blue-silver binding, he felt he could develop it with more practice, so there was no need to occupy a slot for it. If his domain upgraded later and provided an all-out offensive binding skill, there would be even less need to get a binding skill and waste a slot. Following Tang San's path, people who didn't know would think he was Tang San's illegitimate child, or Tang San reincarnated. More importantly, he didn't want to be called Little Tang San. He felt like he couldn't bear it. Set a small goal, reach level 31 by the age of 12. Deng Mu silently set a small goal in his heart. Ding Tang San drank the tea of life. Your vitality and physique have increased. The next second, Deng Mu felt a warm current enter his body, flowing into his limbs and bones. Deng Mu thoroughly enjoyed this feeling and was curious about what Tang San was doing. Could it be that Tang San was trying to cure his illness now? After thinking about it, he felt it was unlikely. Given Tang San's personality, he probably wouldn't seek treatment from others because his dignity wouldn't allow it. If this matter got out, Tang San would become the laughingstock of the god realm. A dignified god king, yet he was an eunuch. People would even doubt whether Tang Wutong was Tang San's child. At most, Tang San would secretly find a way to cure himself, but he wouldn't let others know. Deng Mu thought for a moment, summoned his clear sky hammer, and gave himself a few more hard hits, just in case Tang San actually got better. After finishing these things, Deng Mu jumped off the bed contentedly and clapped his hands. I need to prepare some things, or I'll be battered by a 1,000-year spirit beast. Deng Mu recalled Hua Yuhao killing that 10-year spirit beast and pondered what to use to kill a 1,000-year spirit beast. Ordinary weapons wouldn't work. Wait, there's something that can be used, and its power is quite good. That thing is explosives. Killing a 10,000-year one is hard to say, but killing a 1,000-year spirit beast is easy. A 1,000-year plant spirit beast is even easier. It can only stay in that area. He can directly transform into a suicide bomber and blow the 1,000-year plant spirit beast to death. Chapter 4: Jiang Nanan's Thoughts. Chapter 4: Jiang Nanan's Thoughts. Deng Mu recalled what was needed to make gunpowder. 1 sulfur, 2 nitrates, 3 carbons, plus white sugar. These things were not difficult to acquire, and aside from the price of white sugar, the other items were not very expensive. The only thing he was unsure about was the ratio of these ingredients. He would need to experiment thoroughly. He had some money on him, which Jiang Nanan had given him. Sister, I'm going out for a bit and will be back soon. Go and come back early. Jiang Nanan, who was reading a book, nodded to indicate she understood. The book Jiang Nanan was reading was titled Journey to the West, which Deng Mu had written out of boredom, and Jiang Nanan had picked it up to read. He had originally intended to sell it, but Deng Mu considered that they wouldn't be able to hold on to the money, so he let Jiang Nanan read it herself and warned her not to sell it, otherwise, something big would happen. Deng Mu had observed many industries and found that there were many opportunities to make money, but he would have to wait until he grew up to pursue them. His mother Yan Yuhua was an ordinary person, and his sister, Jiang Nanan, was just a little girl. Although she had already become a spirit master, it was impossible for her to deal with those hidden enemies. After going outside, Deng Mu purchased some items he needed and went to a secret base outside the city to make gunpowder. Phew, my luck is pretty good. After a long time, Deng Mu looked at the gunpowder he had made and wiped the sweat from his forehead. While making the gunpowder, he was truly worried that it would suddenly explode. Although he wasn't worried about dying, his clothes would be ruined, which made him feel a bit reluctant. Also, he didn't have much money left. If these materials were wasted, he would only be able to have a 1v1 true man duel with a 1,000-year spirit beast. Pouring the gunpowder into a tube, it was considered a success. After putting the bomb into a box, Deng Mu hid the box in a tree hollow and left the secret base feeling satisfied. Tomorrow morning, after breakfast, he would go to the nearby hunting soul forest to hunt a 1,000-year spirit beast. Fortunately, the hunting soul forest was not very far from here. It would only take a few hours for him to reach the hunting soul forest. Upon returning home, Deng Mu saw Jiang Nanan cleaning the house, while his mother was cooking in the kitchen. "Brother, come help quickly." "Coming's coming." Seeing Deng Mu return, Jiang Nanan urged him to help quickly. Listening to Jiang Nanan, Deng Mu quickly came over to help her. Half an hour later, Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan had cleaned the house. Jiang Nanan sat on a chair and looked at Deng Mu, saying, "Brother, have you decided which spirit beast you want to get your first spirit ring from?" She planned to ask her teacher for help to assist her brother in obtaining his first spirit ring. Once her brother obtained his first spirit ring, they wouldn't have to bother others with hunting spirit beasts. They could go hunting spirit beasts together. When she reached level 20, the two siblings could team up to hunt spirit beasts. Hunting alone, although somewhat dangerous, was still possible to defeat some weaker 100-year spirit beasts, and if one possessed a particularly powerful spirit, even strong 100-year spirit beasts would be an easy matter. After she obtained her second spirit ring, when her brother reached level 20, she would help him obtain his second spirit ring. With her and her brother's talent, joining Shrek Academy would not be difficult. After graduating from Shrek Academy, she would take care of her brother and then live a good life with her mother. Thinking about taking care of her brother in the future, Jiang Nanan felt overjoyed. Her brother could only be hers, other bad women could not covet her brother. She naturally knew that her brother was not her biological brother, and she planned to talk to him about being together when he grew up. Deng Mu pretended to think for a while and answered Jiang Nanan's question. "I plan to choose a spirit beast with strong vitality and take the support route." Jiang Nanan was puzzled by this. "Brother, why don't you choose to be like the legendary Tang San?" Most people on the Douluo Continent knew about Tang San's spirit abilities and considered them the best combination. There was clearly a better option, but her brother didn't choose it. Instead, he chose a path that no blue-silver grass spirit master had ever chosen. Deng Mu thought for a moment and explained, "Because I found that my blue-silver grass is different from the blue-silver grass in the books. It doesn't seem to be an ordinary blue-silver grass, which is why I chose the support route." Learning that her brother's spirit was mutated, Jiang Nanan nodded to show she understood. In that case, it seemed there was no problem with her brother taking the support route. It was just unclear whether the mutated blue-silver grass would be powerful or useless as a support. Jiang Nanan stroked Deng Mu's head and said, "Then in a few days, I'll go find the teacher, and the teacher will help you hunt your first spirit ring." Deng Mu nodded. "Okay, then I'll trouble you, sister." He thought to himself that he needed to get up early tomorrow morning and go to the hunting soul forest to obtain his first spirit ring after breakfast. The hunting soul forest in this period was somewhat different from Douluo Continent I. During the Douluo Continent I period, the hunting soul forest was controlled by the state, and one needed permission to enter for hunting, while in the Douluo Continent Roman II period, most hunting soul forests were unmanaged. One could enter and exit as they pleased. "What are you two talking about that, making you so happy?" Just then Yan Yuhua walked over, carrying a plate of fragrant ribs, and asked Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu with a smile. Seeing her mother come out of the kitchen, Jiang Nanan quickly got off the chair, took the ribs from her mother's hands, and placed them on the table. Deng Mu looked at Yan Yuhua, scratched his head and said, "Mom, my sister and I were talking about spirit rings." Hearing about spirit rings, Yan Yuhua couldn't help but sigh. They didn't have much money at home and couldn't afford to hire someone to help with hunting, knowing that hiring someone to hunt a spirit beast would cost at least dozens of gold coins. Dozens of gold coins would only get them a random hunt. If they were lucky, it would be a 100-year one, but if they were unlucky, it would be a 10-year one. To specify a certain type of spirit beast, more money would be needed to help hunt the designated spirit beast. Jiang Nanan came to Yan Yuhua's side and said, "Mom, you don't have to worry. I'll go find the teacher in a while and ask the teacher for help." Yan Yuhua sighed and said, "Nanan, when you go, buy some more gifts to give to the teacher." They already owed the teacher a favor, and now they were going to ask the teacher for help again, so they could only send some gifts. As for the favor, they would repay it when they had the chance in the future. However, besides this method, there was no other way. They were poor, and only with money could they make their own choices. Jiang Nanan nodded at Yan Yuhua's words. "Yes, I certainly know." As for what to buy, she already had an idea in mind. Deng Mu, meanwhile, went to the kitchen and brought all the dishes Yan Yuhua had cooked to the table. "All right, let's not talk about these things anymore. Let's celebrate little Mu's awakening of innate full spirit power." Chapter 5 Art is Patrick. Chapter 5 Art is Patrick Star. After Yan Yuhua finished speaking, she and Deng Mu had dinner together. After dinner, Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu went to the bathroom to wash up. "Brother, let's sleep together tonight." All right. Seeing his sister wanted to sleep with him, Deng Mu reluctantly agreed to Jiang Nanan. He used to sleep with his sister often, but ever since she went to school, they rarely slept together. His sister had a hobby of pinching his face from time to time, which made him not particularly fond of sleeping with her. Yan Yuhua didn't say anything when she saw this, only smiled. After all, what could happen between two small children? "Nanan, little Mu, remember to go to bed early and don't play too late." "We know." Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu answered Yan Yuhua in unison. After speaking, the two said good night to Yan Yuhua and returned to their room to rest. The next morning, Deng Mu woke up early, quickly ate some food for breakfast, packed some dry rations for lunch, and then hurried out of the house towards the secret base. He had to be back before nightfall today, so he could only hunt spirit beasts early to return home sooner. Upon arriving at the base, Deng Mu took out the explosives he had hidden yesterday and walked towards the hunting soul forest. On his way to the hunting soul forest, Deng Mu pondered which 1,000-year spirit beast would be best for his first spirit ring. A 1,000-year plant-type spirit beast would be quite good, and if possible, a 1,000-year sub-dragon wasn't out of the question either. However, 1,000-year sub-dragon spirit beasts are extremely rare, practically impossible to encounter by chance. If anyone else encountered a 1,000-year sub-dragon spirit beast alone, they would definitely flee because they couldn't defeat it, but he didn't need to worry about that. Because he had explosives on him, and also because any damage he took would transfer to Tang San, even if he encountered 10,000-year or 100,000-year ones, he would be fine. Even if Dai Tian appeared now, he would dare to point at Dai Tian's nose and curse him for 3 days and 3 nights. If he couldn't become a god in the future, he would go find Gu Yuina, give her a few big slaps, and let her thoroughly screw him to death. With Gu Yuina's strength, if she thoroughly screwed him, Tang San probably wouldn't last long before dying, and he would then inherit everything from Tang San. System, when can I bind a second person? Deng Mu asked the host in his mind. He really wanted to bind Hua Yuhao now. If he successfully bound Hua Yuhao, then when Hua Yuhao obtained a 1,000,000-year spirit ring later, he would also get a 1,000,000-year spirit ring. Having a 1,000,000-year spirit ring would be quite a good thing. Ding, when the host reaches level 20, you can bind a second person. For every 10 levels the host gains, you will have 1 opportunity to bind another person. If the host causes Tang San's death, you can choose to bind someone new. Understood. Deng Mu listened to the host's words, indicating he understood. The second person to bind would definitely be Hua Yuhao, starting from Hu Yuhao onwards, he would bind his enemies and screw them to death one by one. A few hours later, Deng Mu arrived near the Hunting Soul Forest. Looking at the Hunting Soul Forest not far away, Deng Mu nervously swallowed. Even though he knew he wouldn't be killed, he was still a little nervous inside. Stepping into the Hunting Soul Forest, Deng Mu walked towards its depths. The outer perimeter of the Hunting Soul Forest was basically filled with 10-year spirit beasts, and most of them were particularly weak 10-year ones. He truly couldn't be bothered with those Pokemon-like creatures. After walking for a while, Deng Mu saw a human corpse in the distance. Getting closer, he confirmed it was a female corpse. The female corpse looked to be in her 20s and was quite attractive, but her body was covered in wounds, and blood was everywhere. Wait, this person seems to have died not long ago. After examining the female corpse's injuries, Deng Mu discovered that she had only recently died. That meant one thing: the spirit beast that killed this woman should be nearby. Thinking of this, Deng Mu couldn't help but swallow, cautiously looking around. There were many trees around, and he wasn't sure where the spirit beast was hiding. What kind of spirit beast could it be? Deng Mu kept alert to his surroundings, thinking to himself. Just then, a figure suddenly rushed out, rapidly attacking Deng Mu. Damn it, it's a plant-type spirit beast. By the time Deng Mu reacted, he found his legs entangled by vines. Following the direction of the vines, Deng Mu saw a white jade vine of unknown age. The white jade vine was similar to the green jade vine, tough and extremely resilient, but with one difference. The green jade vine had little aggression, while the white jade vine was extremely aggressive, even fond of devouring the corpses of various creatures. Good, you're the one. Deng Mu looked at the white jade vine not far away and muttered to himself. He felt that this white jade vine was very old, probably around 4,000 years. He didn't know how to determine the age of spirit beasts. Teachers would only teach it after he started school, so he could only guess. He would get close to the white jade vine later, and then directly detonate the explosives to kill it. He couldn't help but feel lucky that he had the host, otherwise he would be dead by now. With only 1 meter left between him and the white jade vine, Deng Mu unhesitatingly lit the explosives he held. Art is Patrick Star. Lighting the explosives he held, Deng Mu rolled next to the white jade vine while clutching the explosives. He had originally intended to stand up and embrace the white jade vine, but found he couldn't stand at all, so he had to settle for rolling next to it. Boom! A huge explosion sounded, scaring away many spirit beasts. A little girl, seeing the fleeing spirit beasts, collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Cough, 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 this damn explosive wasn't handled well. Deng Mu climbed up from the ground, coughing as he spoke. His clothes were intact, just a bit dirty, but his whole body was pitch black, as if he had emerged from some mine. He really couldn't understand why he became so black after the explosion. He could even compare himself to a black person. He would need to find a place to wash up later. Otherwise, when he returned, his mother would hang him up and beat him. Although his mother was good to him, she would still punish him if he made a mistake. Looking at the white jade vine that had been blown to death in front of him, Deng Mu thought the explosive's power was quite good. A purple spirit ring floated out from the white jade vine's corpse, suspended above it. Looking at this 1,000-year spirit ring, Deng Mu sat down cross-legged and began to absorb it. After the 1,000-year spirit ring entered his body, Deng Mu felt the pressure of the 1,000-year spirit ring, but in the next second, this pressure vanished. He knew in his heart that the pressure had gone to Tang San, and successfully absorbing this 1,000-year spirit ring was only a matter of time. Chapter 6: Picking Up a Person. God Realm, Sea God's Palace. Tang San, who had just returned to the Sea God's Palace, felt as if his whole body had been pricked by needles, followed by a very slight pressure. This pressure to Tang San was like a massage, not a big deal at all. Faced with this unusual situation, Tang San couldn't help but frown. The events of today were far too strange. First, inexplicably, his lower body became useless, then his whole body felt pricked by needles, and then he felt a particularly slight pressure on his body. This situation made Tang San wonder if he had been cursed by someone. His reputation in the God Realm was excellent. He was very approachable, it was impossible for anyone to curse him. Wait! At that moment, Tang San suddenly thought of someone, though he wasn't sure if it was him. That person was the god of destruction. In the entire god realm, the one who disliked him the most was the god of destruction. Tang San truly couldn't understand why the god of destruction hated him so much. Everything he did was for the good of the god realm and to help develop the Douluo Continent. Apart from the god of destruction, he really couldn't think of anyone else who would curse him. I need to find a way to break this curse on me, otherwise something big will happen sooner or later. Tang San muttered to himself. This problem had to be solved as soon as possible. He guessed that the damage this curse inflicted would only become more and more severe. If he ignored it, he wouldn't last long before dying from it. How utterly vicious, god of destruction. Tang San thought darkly to himself. Was it really necessary to secretly curse him just because their ideas differed? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. Hugh finally absorbed successfully. After a long time, Deng Mu slowly opened his eyes and spoke to himself. Having absorbed this 1,000-year spirit ring, his level had already reached 12, just a bit short of 13. The 1,000-year spirit ring provided a skill called Life Shield, an auxiliary skill. First soul skill Life Shield. Its effect is to grant all teammates a light blue shield, while also boosting their defense. Not bad, but unfortunately not what I had in mind. Deng Mu got up from the ground, brushing off the dust from his clothes as he spoke. His idea for his first spirit ability was one that increased various attributes, but the Life Shield skill was still pretty good. However, this spirit ability was much better than Blue-Silver Binding. If his first skill had also been Blue-Silver Binding, he would have been furious enough to spit blood. After saying that, he activated the Blue-Silver domain to search the surroundings for a water source. He needed to take a good bath. If he went back looking like this now, he was 100% guaranteed to get a combined spanking from his mother and sister. So, only by taking a bath could he avoid that fate. Someone's unconscious here. They actually weren't eaten by a spirit beast, truly blessed by the heavens. At that moment, Deng Mu noticed a little girl lying unconscious on the ground in a certain spot. The little girl was covered in dirt, her clothes somewhat tattered and torn, as if slashed by something. Deng Mu thought for a moment and decided to go check. It might be some character from the plot. After deactivating the Blue-Silver domain, Deng Mu went to the little girl's side and began checking her condition. Not bad, everything seems fairly normal. Probably collapsed from running too long without being able to hold on. Looking at the girl, Deng Mu began analyzing to himself. Judging by the girl's appearance, Deng Mu estimated she was about the same age as his sister, around 9 years old. The quality of her clothes was quite good. Her family must be fairly well off. There were two possibilities. The first was that she encountered enemies and was attacked by them. The second was that she encountered a spirit beast on the road, and she was the only one who managed to escape. As for the truth of the matter, only when the girl woke up would they know what really happened. Forget it, I'll be merciful and save you today. After some thought, Deng Mu chose to save this unknown girl. Initially, he didn't really want to save her, because he didn't know who she was or if she might bring trouble upon him. But for some reason, his intuition told him he needed to save that person. After a while, Deng Mu went to the girl lying unconscious on the ground, picked her up on his back, and started walking towards the direction of North City. For some unknown reason, Deng Mu arrived at his secret base before the sky had even darkened. Based on his previous calculations, it should have been dark by the time he reached the vicinity of North City. Probably after becoming a spirit master, his body had been strengthened, allowing him to return home earlier, Deng Mu thought to himself. After placing the girl in the secret base, Deng Mu headed to a nearby stream to bathe. Looking at his reflection in the river, Deng Mu couldn't help but laugh. There was no helping it, he was just too dirty, like a little black person. It was really too funny. Fortunately, his clothes weren't damaged, otherwise he wouldn't be able to explain why they were torn. After bathing, Deng Mu carried the girl on his back into the city, hurrying towards home. He had only eaten one meal in the morning today, nothing at noon. Carrying the girl and walking for so long, his stomach was already unbearably hungry. "Mom, sis, I'm back." As soon as Deng Mu returned home, he shouted loudly inside. The girl needed his sister and mother to clean her body and change into clean clothes. It wouldn't be good for him, a boy, to bathe this girl. After waiting a moment with no response, Deng Mu scratched his head in confusion. "Not home." Deng Mu thought for a bit and decided to simply wipe the girl's body himself and change her clothes. As long as he didn't say anything afterwards, no one would know about this. Thinking this, Deng Mu took the girl back to the bedroom, then went to boil a basin of hot water. Bringing a towel back to the bedroom. "Heavens, please don't let her wake up in the middle of this." Deng Mu prayed to the heavens, then began removing the girl's clothes. The girl's clothes were tattered, as if attacked by some animal, with some parts slashed by something. After taking off the girl's clothes, Deng Mu began to simply clean her body. In no time, he had wiped her entire body clean. Just as he was about to dress the girl, her eyes suddenly snapped open. Their eyes met, the atmosphere incredibly awkward. The girl's entire face turned bright red as a monkey's bottom. If she had any strength, she would have gotten up and slapped Deng Mu several times right then. Seeing the girl awake, Deng Mu froze completely. The thing he least wanted to happen had still occurred. At least she hadn't woken up while he was wiping her body. That would have been even more awkward. Deng Mu hurriedly apologized to the girl. Sorry, I saw your clothes were torn, so I was changing them for you." Now he only hoped the girl would forgive him. If his sister and mother found out about this, he would be finished. Chapter 7, Tang Ye. Chapter 7, Tang Ye. Upon hearing Deng Mu's words, the girl wished she could find a hole to crawl into. It was simply too embarrassing. Although the other party meant well, the thought of her body being seen by a boy several years younger than her was truly mortifying. However, only the two of them knew about this matter. So long as Deng Mu didn't speak of it, it would be fine. After all, he was her savior. After thinking all this, the girl spoke. "My name is Tang Ye, little brother. Thank you for saving me." Upon learning the girl was Tang Ye, Deng Mu was somewhat surprised. He hadn't expected to have saved Tang Ye. He remembered that Tang Ye indeed had an experience of being hunted down, seemingly because Tai Tang, an Iron Hand of the Iron Blood sect, bribed the Heaven Du City Defense Forces to launch a night raid on Tang sect, where Tang Ye's parents were killed by Iron Hand, and only Tang Ye managed to escape, but Tang sect's foundation was seized by the Iron Blood sect. Thinking of this, Deng Mu looked at Tang Ye with a hint of sympathy. Deng Mu introduced himself. "It's nothing, my name is Deng Mu. What happened just now was my fault. I hope Sister Tang Ye can forgive me." Tang Ye sat up, her face flushed as she covered her body. "It's fine, just give me the clothes. I'll put them on myself." If she were to let Deng Mu put them on her, it would be far too embarrassing. Although she was only 9 years old now, she knew quite a bit about matters between men and women, all taught to her by her parents. Thinking of her parents, Tang Ye couldn't help but feel sorrow, and she secretly resolved to avenge her parents and revitalize Tang sect. Upon hearing this, Deng Mu quickly gave the clothes to Tang Ye, leaving the bedroom and closing the door behind him. "All right, I've changed." After putting on Jiang Nanan's clothes, Tang Ye, feeling somewhat weak, spoke to the outside. Hearing Tang Ye's words, Deng Mu walked in, holding the herbs. "Sister Tang Ye, let me apply the medicine for you, that way you can get better sooner." "Must thank you." "It's nothing." Tang Ye nodded shyly, and when she looked at Deng Mu, she could still recall what had happened earlier. Thinking that Deng Mu was only around 6 years old, her shyness lessened considerably. Deng Mu carefully applied the medicine to Tang Ye, every step extremely meticulous, fearing he might accidentally hurt Tang Ye. Watching Deng Mu's cautious demeanor, Tang Ye only found Deng Mu to be incredibly adorable. Done. After a while, Deng Mu finished applying the medicine to Tang Ye, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and said with immense satisfaction. Every injured spot had been taken care of by him, and in a while, all of Tang Ye's injuries would be healed. Tang Ye thanked Deng Mu. "Little brother Deng Mu, thank you." Deng Mu waved his hand and said, "It's nothing, just a small matter. Sister Tang Ye, you can call me Little Mu." Listening to Deng Mu's words, Tang Ye nodded, indicating she understood. "Brother, are you home?" Just then Jiang Nanan's voice suddenly rang out. Hearing Jiang Nanan's voice, Deng Mu said to Tangya, "Sister Tangya, I'll go out for a moment, my sister is back." Tangya nodded and go ahead. Deng Mu left the bedroom and went to the living room to find Jiang Nanan. Seeing Deng Mu leave, Tangya lay on the bed to rest. She had been running for several days and now had no strength, and her stomach was particularly hungry. "Oh, sister. Brother, where have you been all day today?" Jiang Nanan saw Deng Mu come out of the bedroom and asked, hands on her hips. She even suspected that Deng Mu had secretly gone hunting spirit beasts by himself today. However, upon closer thought, it wasn't very likely. Deng Mu was only 6 years old now and couldn't defeat a spirit beast at all. Him going to find a spirit beast would simply be courting death. Deng Mu scratched his head and said, "Sister, I went to play at the secret base outside the city today." The matter of the secret base was only known to him and Jiang Nanan. No one else knew about it. Upon learning he had gone to play at the secret base, Jiang Nanan breathed a sigh of relief. "Playing at the secret base, then there's nothing to worry about. I thought you went to hunt for a spirit ring by yourself." Listening to Jiang Nanan's words, Deng Mu awkwardly scratched his head, thinking his sister's intuition was truly accurate, guessing what he had done today in an instant. But thankfully, his sister didn't know what he had actually done, otherwise his backside would suffer. "Oh right, sister, there's something I need to tell you." "Tell me, what is it?" Jiang Nanan looked at Deng Mu with some curiosity. She was quite curious about what Deng Mu had to say. She knew her brother quite well. He wouldn't tell her about small matters, so it must be something big. Deng Mu thought for a moment and said, "Today, when I was playing outside the city, I found someone covered in wounds, so I brought her home for treatment." Jiang Nanan listened to Deng Mu's words, frowned and asked, "Who is it? Male or female? How old?" She didn't know why, but she vaguely felt that the person her brother brought back was trouble. Although her brother's actions were not problematic, it didn't mean everyone was worth saving. If the other party was a bad person, then their whole family would be in danger. Their family was just an ordinary one and couldn't withstand any dangerous situations. Any dangerous situation could potentially shatter their family. Deng Mu recalled Tangya's information and said, "Her name is Tangya, she's a girl, and she's about the same age as you, sister." Hearing Tangya's information, Jiang Nanan's heart couldn't help but become vigilant. "Brother, let's go see." After speaking, she walked towards the bedroom, wanting to meet the girl named Tangya. Seeing his sister heading to the bedroom, Deng Mu quickly followed behind Jiang Nanan, somewhat puzzled as to why his sister was so vigilant. It was as if she was guarding against a thief, worried that something might be stolen. Upon arriving at the bedroom, Jiang Nanan saw Tangya resting. "She looks quite good." Jiang Nanan thought to herself as she looked at Tangya on the bed. As for Tangya wearing her clothes, it was no big deal. Tangya opened her eyes and saw Jiang Nanan standing by the bed. "Hello, my name is Tangya." Jiang Nanan looked at the weak Tangya and said, "My name is Jiang Nanan, I'm Deng Mu's sister. You should rest well in bed, I'll go get you something to eat." Through Tangya's appearance, Jiang Nanan thought of several possibilities and reduced some of her vigilance towards Tangya. Deng Mu, who was behind her, heard Jiang Nanan's words and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He had been worried that his sister would kick Tangya out. If Tangya were to be kicked out, her chances of surviving outside wouldn't be very high. Tangya listened to Jiang Nanan's words, "Thank you." After speaking, she closed her eyes and continued to rest. At this moment, she only wanted to rest well and truly had no desire to chat with others. Seeing Tangya resting, Jiang Nanan took Deng Mu and left the bedroom together. "Brother, did you change her clothes?" But she woke up halfway through. Deng Mu heard Jiang Nanan's words and did not hide the fact that he had changed Tangya's clothes. Chapter 8: Jiang Nanan's Surprise. There was nothing to hide about this matter. Anyone not foolish could basically figure it out, and hiding it would make his sister think he was concealing other things. As for wiping Tangya's body, he would never mention it. If his sister found out, who knows what would happen. Jiang Nanan nodded, indicating she understood, then went to the kitchen to make food for Tangya. After a while, Yan Yuhua returned from outside. Yan Yuhua sold snacks outside every day, earning a good amount of money. She usually returned early, but because of Deng Mu's spirit ring, she needed to earn more to help her precious son obtain his first spirit ring. Because 2 children with innate full spirit power appeared in their family, business was exceptionally good today. Everyone wanted to share in their good fortune. After all, 2 people from one family having innate full spirit power was unheard of in North City. "Mom, I have something to tell you." "What is it?" Yan Yuhua smiled and asked Deng Mu when she saw he had something to tell her. She knew her son well, he would only tell her about important matters. Deng Mu scratched his head and told his mother about picking up Tangya. Yan Yuhua listened to Deng Mu, nodded, indicating she understood, and then began to ponder. Watching Yan Yuhua deep in thought, Deng Mu couldn't help but feel nervous. After a while, Yan Yuhua said, "Okay, I'll go see her." With that, she walked towards Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan's bedroom, wanting to meet Tangya before making a decision. Deng Mu watched his mother's back and didn't follow. This kind of thing could only be discussed between his mother and Tangya, letting his mother make the decision. After a while, Jiang Nanan brought a bowl of noodles from the kitchen. Seeing Deng Mu sitting alone in the living room, Jiang Nanan asked Deng Mu, "Little brother, why aren't you with Tangya?" Deng Mu scratched his head and said, "Mom said she wants to talk to Tangya, so I'm waiting outside." Knowing that his mother was talking to Tangya, Jiang Nanan nodded in understanding, placed the cooked noodles on the table, and sat beside Deng Mu, waiting for their mother to come out. "Little brother, did you play outside the city all day today?" "Yes, why?" "Nothing." Jiang Nanan shook her head, indicating nothing was wrong after hearing Deng Mu's words. She didn't know why, but she felt that her little brother must have secretly gone to the forest to get a spirit ring. She also wondered how many years his spirit ring was. If it was only a 10-year spirit ring, her little brother would be finished. Everyone knew the optimal spirit ring configuration, but only a few could achieve it. Most commoner spirit masters had a 10-year spirit ring as their first. Seeing his sister silently staring at him, Deng Mu felt that Jiang Nanan must have guessed he went to the hunting soul forest to acquire a spirit ring, but he absolutely couldn't say it. If he admitted it, his backside would suffer, but if he couldn't convince his sister, then handling his mother would be difficult, and it would be a double beating. Although the damage would transfer to Tang San, the shame of being spanked was something he couldn't accept. Deng Mu hesitated for a moment, then hugged Jiang Nanan's arm and said, "Sister, I admit I went into the hunting soul forest." Learning that Deng Mu really went, Jiang Nanan looked at Deng Mu somewhat angrily and said, "Didn't I say we'd go hunt spirit beasts for you in a few days?" Jiang Nanan felt a bit angry with this disobedient little brother. She worried about Deng Mu's safety. What if something unexpected happened in the forest? One must know that spirit beasts were not something a child could deal with. Even an adult could be killed by a 10-year spirit beast, let alone a 6-year-old child like Deng Mu. Deng Mu apologized to Jiang Nanan. "I'm sorry, sister, there's a reason for this, and I can't tell you the specific details." After speaking, he showed Jiang Nanan his spirit ring. In this situation, it was better to show his spirit ring. Looking at Deng Mu's spirit ring, Jiang Nanan couldn't help but freeze, subconsciously rubbing her eyes. A purple spirit ring. Jiang Nanan confirmed she wasn't dreaming, and her heart was incredibly shocked. The teacher once said that theoretically, the first spirit ring could be a 1,000-year spirit ring, but the body had to be strong enough, though what level of strength was required was unclear. She was truly surprised that her little brother's first spirit ring was actually a 1,000-year one. She vaguely felt that some powerful expert must have seen her little brother's good talent and helped him get a 1,000-year spirit ring. She didn't believe that her little brother got this 1,000-year spirit ring by himself. A 100-year spirit beast could kill many adults, let alone a 1,000-year spirit beast. When the teacher helped her hunt a 100-year spirit beast, it took a lot of effort to get it. It was absolutely impossible for her little brother to get it alone. Thinking of this, Jiang Nanan sighed and said, "Let's forget about this matter. There won't be a next time. I'll find an excuse to tell Mom." It was already done. Telling her would only make their mother worry. It was better to conceal it and find an excuse, saying the teacher helped him get it. Their mother wasn't clear about spirit rings, so she could easily be fooled. Deng Mu kissed Jiang Nanan and said, "That's great, thank you, sister." He was worried that Jiang Nanan would tell their mother, but Jiang Nanan said she wouldn't, which made him very happy. Jiang Nanan turned her head blushing and said, HMPH, if you do this again in the future, I'll tell Mom and let her teach you a good lesson, making you unable to get out of bed for 3 days. Deng Mu chuckled and said, Don't worry, sister, I'll be obedient in the future and won't act on my own. It would be easier to get spirit rings later by hunting with Jiang Nanan and the others, but he couldn't expose his true situation. But that wasn't a problem for him. It wouldn't be easy for Jiang Nanan and the others to discover. Listening to Deng Mu, Jiang Nanan sighed helplessly. She vaguely felt that her little brother would definitely not be obedient. She needed to improve her strength well to protect her little brother's life. Anyone who dared to harm her little brother, she would fight to the death. Jiang Nanan asked Deng Mu curiously, Little brother, what is your first soul skill? Seeing Jiang Nanan's curiosity, Deng Mu introduced, My first soul skill is called Life Shield. It grants teammates a protective barrier and simultaneously boosts their defense. Jiang Nanan nodded after hearing Deng Mu, saying, It's all right, I thought it would be a spirit ability that enhances teammates' strength. However, with this spirit ability, the team's life safety could be guaranteed. If a spirit beast launched a sneak attack, the life shield could even block a fatal blow. Chapter 9 Tang Ye's Discovery. After a while, Yan Yuhua walked out of the bedroom. Mother. Seeing Yan Yuhua come out of the bedroom, Jiang Nanan called out to her, wanting to know her intentions. Yan Yuhua looked at Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu and said, From today on, Tang Ye will live in our home. She is part of our family. She couldn't help but sigh inwardly. After chatting with Tang Ye in the bedroom for a while, she understood Tang Ye's background. She felt that Tang Ye was a pitiful person. Her parents had been killed by others, her home had been seized, and she was left all alone with no one to rely on. After learning about Tang Ye's background, she decided to take her in. She chatted with Tang Ye for a while, and Tang Ye agreed to stay. Upon learning that Tang Ye would be staying and becoming part of the family, both Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan were somewhat surprised. They hadn't expected her to keep Tang Ye. Jiang Nanan, in particular, had assumed that they would at most let Tang Ye stay for a period of time, and once her injuries healed, she would be sent away. This led her to guess that Tang Ye's background must be very tragic, and upon learning of it, their mother felt compassion and decided to take her in. She didn't have any objections to this, as long as Tang Ye didn't bring trouble to the family. If Tang Ye did bring trouble, she would be the first to oppose her staying. It was impossible to put the whole family at risk, just because Tang Ye was pitiful. That was unthinkable. Deng Mu thought the same as Jiang Nanan, assuming his mother would at most let Tang Ye recover from her illness, before letting her leave. He had even planned to persuade his mother to let Tang Ye stay at home, but he hadn't expected his mother to offer to keep her on her own initiative. She must have learned about Tang Ye's background. Immediately after, Yan Yuhua said, Nanan, go take the noodles to Tang Ye. That child hasn't eaten for a whole day. Hearing her mother's words, Jiang Nanan nodded to show she understood, and carried the noodles she had made toward the bedroom. Little Mu, is there something you want to tell me? Seeing Jiang Nanan enter the bedroom, Yan Yuhua walked over to Deng Mu with a smile and gently stroked his head. During their conversation earlier, she had learned some things. And these things concerned Deng Mu. Hearing Yan Yuhua's words, Deng Mu couldn't help but swallow hard. It seemed his mother knew. Oh no. I'm going to get spanked. Deng Mu thought to himself, feeling a massive headache. How could he have forgotten about Tang Ye? When his mother chatted with Tang Ye, she would definitely ask where he had found her. Come with me to my room. Okay. Deng Mu sighed helplessly and followed Yan Yuhua into the room. I'm going to get spanked. As he followed his mother into the room, Deng Mu thought to himself. Although getting spanked didn't hurt at all, it was quite embarrassing. After a while, Yan Yuhua finished spanking Deng Mu and went into the kitchen to make dinner, while Deng Mu pulled up his pants with a flushed face. This was his first time being spanked. In the past, it was always Jiang Nanan who got spanked, and he would watch happily. He hadn't expected it to be his turn now. After dinner, Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan returned to the bedroom to rest. The three of them sleeping together wasn't cramped, but if they were all older, it would be a bit crowded. The next morning, after Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan finished breakfast, they kept Tang Ye company. Jiang Nanan asked Tang Ye with some curiosity, "Little Ya, what is your spirit?" Tanya sat up and said, "My spirit is blue silver grass, rank 15. Nanan, what is your spirit?" The two of them had spent some time together last night, and their relationship had become quite good. Jiang Nanan introduced, "My spirit is soft bones rabbit, and my current rank is 16. Upon learning that Jiang Nanan was already rank 16, Tanya looked at her with some surprise. She was only able to reach rank 15 because of the mysterious heaven skill, but Jiang Nanan had reached rank 16 without any cultivation technique, which meant Jiang Nanan's talent was excellent. Seeing Tanya's surprise, Deng Mu explained, "Little Ya, my sister has innate full spirit power." Upon learning that Jiang Nanan had innate full spirit power, Tanya wore an expression of sudden realization. If she had innate full spirit power, it made sense. Tanya asked Deng Mu, "What about you, little Mu? What is your spirit?" Deng Mu scratched his head and said, "My spirit is Blue Silver Emperor, and I also have innate full spirit power, rank 12. Upon learning of Deng Mu's spirit, Tanya was a bit confused. She didn't know what a Blue Silver Emperor was. But Deng Mu's innate spirit power and rank left her incredibly surprised. She hadn't expected one family to have two people with innate full spirit power, and the younger brother was even more outstanding than his sister. This made a thought pop into Tanya's mind. She wanted to have Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan join the Tang Sect. In that case, the Tang Sect would likely be revitalized in the future. Seeing Tanya's confusion, Deng Mu finally remembered that Tanya didn't know about the Blue Silver Emperor at all. To be precise, only a few people knew about the Blue Silver Emperor. Others didn't know what it was, especially the people of the Tang Sect. Those people regarded spirit masters, who possessed blue silver grass, as their hope, hoping that a second Tang San would emerge among them to lead the Tang Sect to its peak. Unfortunately, they didn't know that Tang San's spirit was the Blue Silver Emperor, not blue silver grass. If the people of the Tang Sect hadn't been so obsessed with blue silver grass, they probably wouldn't have declined so early. Honestly, even Tang San himself hadn't expected the Tang Sect to be so obsessed with blue silver grass. "I'll show you and you'll understand." As he said this, Deng Mu demonstrated his Blue Silver Emperor to Tanya. He remembered that the Blue Silver Emperor had a suppression effect on plant-type spirits, especially blue silver grass. After all, the Blue Silver Emperor was the emperor among the blue silver grass. Watching the Blue Silver Emperor that Deng Mu demonstrated, Tanya felt the suppression from the Blue Silver Emperor. She could be certain that the Blue Silver Emperor was a top-tier plant-type spirit. Tanya leaned in close to Deng Mu and carefully examined the Blue Silver Emperor spirit. After examining it for a while, Tang, you discovered the difference between Deng Mu's Blue Silver Emperor and Blue Silver Grass. The Blue Silver Emperor was thicker and sturdier than Blue Silver Grass, and it had golden veins. If one didn't look closely, it was impossible to distinguish the Blue Silver Emperor from Blue Silver Grass. Wait! Tanya suddenly remembered something. She had previously read books about Tang San's ancestor, and one of those books contained an introduction to his spirit. Tang San's ancestor possessed twin spirits and had innate full spirit power. His spirits were Blue Silver Grass and the top-tier tool spirit Clear Sky Hammer. The description of the Blue Silver Grass was exactly the same as Deng Mu's Blue Silver Emperor, with no difference at all. Their Tang Sect had been wrong all along. Tang San's ancestor's spirit wasn't some Blue Silver Grass, but the Blue Silver Emperor spirit. In that instant, Tang, you felt that their Tang Sect was like a joke, always treating ordinary Blue Silver Grass spirits as their hope. No one knew that Tang San's ancestor's spirit was the Blue Silver Emperor. It was also possible that someone had discovered that Tang San's ancestor's Blue Silver Grass was different from ordinary Blue Silver Grass, but no one believed it. Chapter 10: Joining. If only I had discovered it earlier, perhaps the Tang Sect would not have declined so quickly, and it might even have risen again. Thinking of this, Tanya could not help but sigh, her heart filled with mixed emotions. But she quickly pulled herself together. She saw hope in Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan. As long as the two of them joined the Tang Sect, and she went out to recruit more people, perhaps the Tang Sect could become a first-rate school under her hands. Returning to its peak period was impossible, unless someone in the sect became a god. Becoming a god was simply impossible. After ancestor Tang San left, no one else had become a god in these 10,000 years. She felt that with the talent of Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu, combined with the mysterious heaven skill, their cultivation could improve, and their combat power would also increase. Seeing that Tang Yu remained silent, Deng Mu asked her, "Zyroya, what is wrong? Did something happen? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio." He guessed internally that she must have thought of something that left Tang Yu extremely surprised. It was highly likely related to Tang San. Perhaps Tang Yu had already discovered that Tang San's spirit was not blue-silver grass, but the top-tier plant-type spirit, blue-silver emperor. He felt that Tang Yu and her kin were quite unlucky. Their blue-silver grass spirit possessed the orthodox blue-silver grass royal bloodline, yet for these 10,000 years, no one spirit had evolved from blue-silver grass into the blue-silver emperor. If even one had appeared, they would have known that Tang San's spirit was actually the blue-silver emperor, not blue-silver grass. Jiang Nanan watched with some confusion, not knowing what had happened. After finishing her thoughts, Tang Yu looked at Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan and said, "Nanan, little Mu, I would like to invite you both to join the Tang Sect. I wonder if you are willing." After speaking, she looked at Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu with some trepidation, hoping with all her heart that the two would agree to join the Tang Sect. If they were unwilling, there was nothing she could do. She would just have to find some people with good talent in the future and invite them to join the Tang Sect. Upon hearing Tang Sect, Jiang Nanan asked curiously, "Zyroya, is the Tang Sect you mentioned the school established by the sea god Tang San 10,000 years ago?" She knew quite a bit about the Tang Sect. After all, her mother often told stories of the sea god Tang San in the past, and she had curiously looked into the Tang Sect. She remembered that the Tang Sect seemed to have declined, and could no longer be ranked anywhere in the entire Douluo Continent. Tang Yu nodded and said with some pride, "That is right, I am the current sect master of the Tang Sect." Upon learning that Tang Yu was the current sect master of the Tang Sect, Jiang Nanan was somewhat surprised. She had not expected Tang Yu to be the current sect master. But this represented one thing: the Tang Sect was completely finished. It had already let a 9-year-old girl become the sect master. Other than Tang Yu, she estimated there was no one else in the entire school. No, that was not an estimate. It was certain that there was only Tang Yu left, because when her younger brother found Tang Yu was already covered in wounds. And coupled with her mother's insistence on keeping Tang Yu, it was highly probable that the Tang Sect had been wiped out, which was why Tang Yu had become the sect master of the Tang Sect. Thinking of this, Jiang Nanan looked at Deng Mu, wanting to hear what Deng Mu thought. If Deng Mu wanted to join the Tang Sect, then she would follow and join the Tang Sect as well. But if Deng Mu did not join, she would not join the Tang Sect either, because she felt that if her younger brother was not willing to join, it definitely was not worth anything. Seeing Jiang Nanan looking at him, Deng Mu thought for a moment and nodded to indicate that he could join. Although the mysterious heaven treasure record had been gutted, it was not a big problem. Those cultivation techniques and martial skills were still very useful to them. If his elder sister learned those ultimate techniques of the Tang Sect, her strength could improve by a level, and as for him, he would gain some ability to protect himself, without worrying about his secrets being exposed. "All right, my younger brother and I will join the Tang Sect." Seeing Deng Mu indicate that he could join the Tang Sect, Jiang Nanan agreed without even thinking. Although she was not sure why her younger brother agreed to join this school that was already failing, she trusted Deng Mu's choice. Seeing that Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu both agreed, Tang Yu was incomparably happy. She had recruited 2 geniuses for the sect. Perhaps in the future, more geniuses would join the Tang Sect. Tang Yu thought about it and decided to forget about the initiation ceremony for joining the sect. With things the way they were now, why bother with such ceremonies? "Nanan, little Mu, you are now disciples of the Tang Sect. Today, I will pass on my Tang Sect's ultimate cultivation technique, the mysterious heaven skill, to you both." After being happy, Tang Yu said to Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan with a serious face. Watching Tang Yu with this expression, Deng Mu found it very interesting. Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan both nodded to indicate that they understood, and then waited for Tang Yu to impart the cultivation technique. Regarding the mysterious heaven skill, Deng Mu was still quite curious. He was curious about what the contents of the mysterious heaven skill were like, to be able to make Tang San hold onto the mysterious heaven skill and practice it continuously after his rebirth. He could not quite understand why the cultivation technique of a school that played with hidden weapons was still so practical after arriving in another world. If he had memorized the Tao Te Ching and such before his transmigration, would he have become invincible directly by cultivating those in Douluo? Listen carefully, I am now starting to pass on the mysterious heaven skill to you. As for the other ultimate techniques, I will need to wait until my injuries are healed before I can pass them on to you. Understood. Tang Yu began to impart the content of the mysterious heaven skill to Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan. Worried that Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan would not understand, Tang Yu also specially explained some of the difficult parts to Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu once. After understanding the mysterious heaven skill, Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu began to cultivate the mysterious heaven skill. After cultivating the mysterious heaven skill, Deng Mu entered a strange state, feeling a large amount of origin Kai from between heaven and earth entering his body. Douluo Continent, somewhere. A woman sensed something and revealed an expression of surprise. The woman was wearing a long white dress and seemed to be around 30 years old, with a head of azure blue long hair draped behind her. She possessed the beauty of heaven and earth, as if she were the center of this world. She was breathtakingly beautiful, and in an instant, everything else lost its color. Sensing that aura, the woman muttered to herself, "Strange, why do I feel a familiar aura?" Her name was Yin, and she was the wife of Tang Hao, and the mother of the sea god and Asura god Tang San. This aura gave her a very familiar feeling, a sense of familiarity she had only felt from one person. That person was her son Tang San. Besides Tang San, she had never felt this kind of aura. Yin thought for a moment, and denied the possibility that this person was Tang San, because this aura was much weaker than her son's, by an unknown amount. There was only one possibility: that person might be her grandson or granddaughter. To confirm this thought, Yin intended to head to that place, to take a look and confirm the other party's identity. The reason she thought this way was because she had heard from her daughter-in-law that Tang Wutong had come down from the god realm, which was why this thought popped up. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for her to think that the other party might be her grandson or granddaughter. Chapter 11, Is the Tang Sect important to Tang San? Hugh, I've reached rank 13. Deng Mu opened his eyes and muttered to himself. He was somewhat surprised. He hadn't expected to enter a state of self-forgetfulness the first time he cultivated the mysterious heaven skill. Jumping from rank 12 to rank 13 just like that, few people would believe it if he told them. Hearing Deng Mu's words, Tanya looked at him in utter astonishment. She hadn't expected that Deng Mu could actually reach rank 13 from rank 12 on his very first time cultivating the mysterious heaven skill. Could it be that Deng Mu might reach the level of ancestor Tang San? Or perhaps could Deng Mu lead the Tang Sect to rise again and return it to its former heights? If that were truly possible, she would be willing to yield the position of Tang Sect sect master to Deng Mu, and as for herself, she could be the sect master's wife or something similar. Jiang Nanan, standing to the side, felt indifferent upon hearing Deng Mu's words. After all, she knew her younger brother's first spirit ring was a 1,000-year one, so advancing one rank so quickly was nothing special. Deng Mu curiously asked Jiang Nanan, "Sister, what do you think?" Jiang Nanan scratched her head and said, "I think it's quite good, better than the meditation techniques taught at school." She felt that if she had cultivated the mysterious heaven skill earlier, her rank might have been even higher, though she wasn't quite sure how much higher. She inwardly marveled that it was indeed a sect founded by the sea god Tang San. The things left behind were surprisingly useful. The only thing that puzzled Jiang Nanan was how exactly the Tang Sect had declined. She knew the Tang Sect possessed many unique skills, and with the mysterious heaven skill being so powerful, plus the other unique skills, it shouldn't have fallen into decline. It was strange, truly too strange. Deng Mu nodded to show he understood and looked at Tanya. "Little Ya, since I have joined the Tang Sect, there is something I must tell you." Hearing Deng Mu's words, Tanya asked curiously, "What is it, little Mu?" It couldn't possibly be that he had twin spirits, and the second spirit was the clear sky hammer. If that were really the case, she would become Deng Mu's wife. Deng Mu scratched his head and said, "I have another spirit. My second spirit is the clear sky hammer." After saying this, he stretched out his hand and displayed his second spirit, the clear sky hammer, to Tanya. Seeing Deng Mu's second spirit, Tanya was completely stunned, not knowing what to say. For some reason, she felt that the reason she could meet Deng Mu was because of the guidance of ancestor Tang San, allowing her to meet Deng Mu and have him lead the Tang Sect to rise. Thinking that the Tang Sect could rise, Tanya was incomparably excited. She had always wanted the Tang Sect to rise, and now that she saw hope, how could she not be excited? Tanya forcibly calmed her emotions and said, "Little Mu, do not tell others about you possessing the clear sky hammer. Possessing these two spirits will cause some unnecessary trouble." If Deng Mu only possessed these two spirits, it wouldn't cause anything, but adding Deng Mu's talent, others might mistake Deng Mu for a second Tang San. If any accident were to happen to Deng Mu, the Tang Sect would have no chance of rising. Deng Mu nodded to show he understood after hearing Tanya's words. Tanya's reaction was within his expectations. The Tang Sect had always regarded spirit masters with the blue-silver grass spirit as their hope, and now that she had met someone like him, who possessed both the clear sky hammer and the blue-silver emperor, and had exceptionally good talent, how could Tanya not be excited? Tanya took a deep breath and said with a serious face, "Little Mu, I want to yield the position of Tang Sect Master to you, and I will become the Deputy Sect Master." Hearing Tanya's words, Deng Mu looked at Tanya with some surprise. He hadn't expected that Tanya would actually want to yield the Tang Sect to him. It seemed that making the Tang Sect rise had already become Tanya's obsession. In the past, when he read Douluo Continent, Deng Mu had a doubt. Was the Tang Sect really important to Tang San? Personally, he felt that the Tang Sect was not important to Tang San. The reason for creating the Tang Sect was more because of Tang San's obsession with the Tang Sect. If the Tang Sect were important to Tang San, even if he didn't openly help the Tang Sect, he would have at least helped in secret, so it wouldn't have reached the point where only 3 people were left by the time of Tanya, and later, when someone wanted to seize their territory, they almost killed Tanya's whole family. He really couldn't understand why Tang San had to castrate the mysterious Heaven Treasure record. He could understand worrying about the poison chapter being learned by people with ulterior motives, but why remove the medicine chapter? Furthermore, during Douluo 3, it was said that because opening the 8 extraordinary meridians was too dangerous, knowledge regarding this aspect was simply not recorded. Isn't that just nonsense? Tang Wulin cultivated the original version of the mysterious heaven skill, while the people of the Tang Sect all cultivated the castrated version of the mysterious heaven skill. Deng Mu suddenly felt that the mysterious heaven skill he was cultivating was also the castrated version, but he had no evidence to prove this. This didn't matter to him. He had the system, and later he would bind to Huo the cheat, and mooch off Huo Yuhao's cheat. Seeing Deng Mu not speaking, Tanya's face flushed slightly as she said to Deng Mu, "Little Mu, if you agree, I am willing to be your fiancé." Hearing Tanya's words, Jiang Nanan looked at Tanya in a daze. "I treat you as my best friend, and you actually want to hit on my younger brother." Deng Mu listened to Tanya's words and looked at her in surprise. He hadn't expected that Tanya could say such things just to make the Tang Sect rise. Looking at Tanya's appearance, she really regarded him as the hope of the Tang Sect. Deng Mu thought for a moment and said, "Little Ya, why don't you continue to be the sect master, and I will be the deputy sect master?" He didn't want to be any sect master. After the Tang Sect rose in the future, he would have to deal with a pile of things, and just thinking about it felt very troublesome. Being a deputy sect master was quite good. He could always slack off and let Tanya handle things. Tanya shook her head and said, "No, you must be the sect master, and I will be the deputy sect master. I will handle whatever comes up." She was mainly worried that after the Tang Sect rose in the future, Deng Mu would be powerful, but only a deputy sect master, while the sect master would not be as powerful as the deputy sect master, which would definitely cause some criticism. Seeing that Tanya had said so, Deng Mu had to agree. "Fine, then I agree to become the Tang sect master." In the future, if there was anything to handle, he would just hand it over to Tanya and let her deal with it. He would just be a hands-off boss. He already had an idea of who to recruit in the future. Right now, the most urgent task was to cultivate well. Seeing Deng Mu agree, Tanya breathed a sigh of relief, took a token out of her pocket, and handed it to Deng Mu. As for the mysterious Heaven Treasure record, she had hidden it. She was worried that she would be caught by those people, and they would obtain the mysterious Heaven Treasure record, so she hid it when she was escaping. After her injuries healed, she would go retrieve the mysterious heaven treasure record and hand it over to Deng Mu. Deng Mu took the token given by Tang and carefully examined the token in his hand. The token was generally quite nice. The front was engraved with some patterns, and the character sect was written in the middle. It felt somewhat cold in his hand. Chapter 12, First Meeting with Yin. However, this was quite normal. The token looked like it was made of some kind of iron. Tang looked at Deng Mu, who was holding the token, with a somewhat embarrassed expression. In less than a day, she had acquired a genius fiancé. It was just that this genius fiancé was a bit young, but it wasn't a major problem. There was only a 3-year age difference. Deng Mu put away the token and looked at Tang, saying, "Since I am now the sect master of the Tang Sect, little Ye, I hope you can agree to a few things for me." Tang agreed without a second thought. "Sure, little Mu, tell me." Seeing that Tang agreed, Deng Mu thought for a moment and said, "I am aware of your situation. I hope you will not be blinded by hatred. From now on, whenever I speak on a matter, you must follow my instructions. If you do not listen to me, then I will not take this position." He remembered that Tang went to take revenge, succeeded with the help of the Holy Spirit cult, became an evil soul master, and simultaneously became the Holy Maiden of the Holy Spirit cult. He did not want these things to happen, which was why he spoke to Tang in this manner. If Tang was unwilling, then there was no need for him to be the sect leader of the Tang Sect. Tang nodded in agreement upon hearing Deng Mu's words. She understood the first part, but she was unclear about the latter part. Jiang Nanan listened silently to the conversation between Deng Mu and Tang. She naturally understood the meaning behind her younger brother's words. "All right, little Ye, you should get some good rest." Listening to Deng Mu, Tang obediently got into bed to rest. Seeing Tang resting, Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu left the bedroom and left the house to register their information. After registering their information, they could collect their spirit master subsidies. Although it was not as much as in the Douluo era, it was better than nothing. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed. Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan were in their secret base, practicing the supreme techniques Tang had given them for the Tang Sect. Every morning, they would wake up early to cultivate the purple demon eye, followed by other supreme techniques like the ghost shadow perplexing track. After practicing the Tang Sect's supreme techniques, Deng Mu felt they were quite good, and not as unbearable as those people on the internet had said before his transmigration. If he were to rate these supreme techniques, he would give them a 7 out of 10. After all, he hadn't seen other supreme techniques, so he could only rate them based on his own feelings. Deng Mu felt some doubt in his heart. When the Tang Sect became the #1 sect on the Douluo Continent, had no one else created movement techniques or anything similar? "Phew, I'm exhausted." After finishing the ghost shadow perplexing track, Jiang Nanan sat on the ground, panting as she spoke. Every time she finished practicing, Jiang Nanan felt incredibly tired, but those supreme techniques were indeed excellent. She understood less and less how the Tang Sect had declined. It was truly too strange. Now she felt that there were 2 possibilities for the Tang Sect's decline. One was that someone was causing trouble behind the scenes, and the second was that the people of the Tang Sect were all fools. Apart from these 2 possibilities, she really couldn't think of any others. Deng Mu sat beside Jiang Nanan and said with a chuckle, "Sister, you're not doing well, you need to train properly." Jiang Nanan rolled her eyes at Deng Mu and said, "Not everyone is like you, with such a terrifying physique." She couldn't help but worry about Tang. If Tang were to marry Deng Mu, she felt that Tang might not be able to handle it. Listening to Jiang Nanan's words, Deng Mu smiled and scratched his head, not saying anything. Over the past few days, Tang San had drunk some special tea, and his physique and mental force had improved significantly. He didn't know where Tang San had gotten the tea. "I'll head back to see how little Ye is doing. You just keep practicing here. I'll come to get you when it's time to eat." "Got it." Deng Mu nodded to show he understood, picked up the cup nearby, and took a sip of water. Jiang Nanan got up and left, walking in the direction of their home. She was smelly, and she wanted to go back to take a good bath, then check on Tang's condition. After learning quite a bit about the Tang Sect during this period, her doubts about the Tang Sect had grown. The biggest doubt was that the Tang Sect was very famous for its pharmacology, so why did Tang not know anything about it? She increasingly felt that this person, Tang San, was very unreliable. Seeing that Jiang Nanan had left, Deng Mu lay on the grass and began to let his mind wander. "Little one, are you all alone?" Just as Deng Mu was lost in thought, a gentle voice sounded. Hearing the voice, Deng Mu sat up and looked in the direction of the sound, seeing Yin looking at him with a smile. Looking at Yin, Deng Mu couldn't help but be stunned. It was his first time seeing such a beautiful woman. Although his sister and the others were beautiful, compared to the woman in front of him, it was like comparing heaven and earth. Whether it was her appearance or temperament, Yin completely crushed his sister and the others. This woman was definitely not ordinary, Deng Mu thought to himself secretly. Based on his years of experience reading web novels, generally, beautiful women were basically people with powerful strength. Thinking of this, Deng Mu couldn't help but take a few steps back. If he discovered anything wrong, he would choose to run away. Yin looked at Deng Mu's appearance and felt somewhat helpless. She walked in front of Deng Mu, crouched down and said gently, "Little one, don't be nervous, I mean you no harm." While speaking, she sized up Deng Mu, confirming whether Deng Mu was the person she was looking for. Deng Mu looked at Yin with some vigilance and asked, "Big sister, is there something you need?" Addressing an older woman as younger would make the other person feel better. This was his experience from interacting with others in the past. Of course, one couldn't call them too young, as that would be counterproductive. Yin was quite satisfied upon hearing Deng Mu's words, but thinking that Deng Mu might have a relationship with her son, she inexplicably felt that this address was strange. "It's nothing, I came here to find someone." Looking at the Deng Mu in front of her, Yin said gently and reached out to stroke Deng Mu's head tenderly. She quietly detected Deng Mu's spirit to confirm his identity. As expected, it was the Blue-Silver Emperor and the Clear Sky Hammer. This child must have a relationship with Little San, and it was very likely that he was Little San's illegitimate son. The reason she thought this way was that if Deng Mu had been born to Xiao Wu, it would be impossible for her not to know about this matter. Little San would definitely have notified her. Back when Xiao Wu was pregnant with Wu Tong, Tang San had specifically come to tell them about it, and when Xiao Wu gave birth to Wu Tong, she and Tang Hao were also present. If Deng Mu only had the Blue-Silver Emperor or the Clear Sky Hammer, she wouldn't think Deng Mu had a relationship with Little San, but it just so happened that Deng Mu possessed both spirits simultaneously. If others knew about this matter, they would also think that Deng Mu and Little San had a relationship. What was more important was that a few years ago, Little San had come to the Douluo Continent once. She was not clear about what exactly he did, but a few days later, he came to visit her and Tang Hao alone, and then returned to the God Realm. Thinking of this, the way Yin looked at Deng Mu was incomparably gentle, and it even carried some motherly love and heartache. Chapter 13: The Confused Deng Mu. By now, Yin had already come to view Deng Mu as her eldest grandson. She trusted her intuition deeply, and believed it couldn't possibly be wrong. As for why she sensed a bloodline, Yin guessed it must have been her son helping her eldest grandson hide it, waiting for a critical moment to help Deng Mu activate it. Or perhaps her precious eldest grandson simply hadn't undergone awakening for his bloodline yet, but none of that mattered. Deng Mu looked at the silent Yin, wondering what exactly she was trying to do. Having arrived in this world for 6 years, this was the first time he had met such a strange person. Could it be that this person had some strange ideas about him? That shouldn't be the case, right? He was only 6 years old. How much of a beast would someone have to be to prey on a 6-year-old child? After hesitating for a moment, Deng Mu asked, "Excuse me, is there something you need?" Yin said gently, "My name is Yin and I am your grandmother. You have suffered, child." Without waiting for Deng Mu to react, she pulled him into her embrace. At this moment, Deng Mu's mind was filled with question marks, completely bewildered by what Yin had said. Since when did he become Tang San's son? Although his spirit was shared with Tang San, that didn't mean he was Tang San's son. This was simply too strange, too absurd. Deng Mu suddenly felt this was karma. He shouldn't have been giving Tang San a fatal kick to the crotch every few days, otherwise Yin wouldn't have mistaken him for Tang San's son. Yin's words sparked a strange idea in him. He could pretend to be Tang San's son for fun, and even if Tang San found out, it wouldn't be a big deal. After all, Tang San was bound to him. Tang San couldn't kill him, but he could kill Tang San. Deng Mu looked at Yin with feigned confusion. Grandmother. I remember my grandmother passed away a long time ago, and my parents also passed away early. How could I still have a grandmother? He was still a bit unsure, not knowing if he could successfully deceive Yin in his first attempt at acting. If he failed, the trouble would be significant, but if he succeeded, there would be plenty of fun to be had. Seeing that Deng Mu didn't believe her, Yin explained, I really am your grandmother, your biological grandmother. Your previous parents were your adoptive parents. Your true parents are Tang San and Zyro Wu. She didn't know who Deng Mu's mother was, so she could only say that Zyro Wu was his mother. After returning, she would have a good talk with Tang San about Deng Mu and see how to arrange for him. Hearing Yin's words, Deng Mu said with some surprise, Tang San, the Tang San who became the sea god 10,000 years ago. He had wanted to compliment Tang San, but his conscience wouldn't allow it. Yin nodded, that's right, your father is the sea god Tang San. Deng Mu scratched his head in confusion and said, since I am his child, why have I never seen him? Listening to Deng Mu's words, Yin didn't know what to say. She had thought Tang San had seen his son. It turned out Tang San had never met Deng Mu. She guessed Deng Mu was the result of an accident. Yin thought quickly and said to Deng Mu, it's not that your parents didn't want to see you. They had unspeakable reasons and had no choice but to send you to the Douluo Continent. Deng Mu nodded to show he understood, then continued to ask, Grandmother, when will I be able to see my parents? He couldn't help but complain about Yin in his heart. Even a 3-year-old wouldn't believe such an excuse. Trying to fool him with this, did she really take him for a fool? Yin thought for a moment and replied, once you become a god, you will be able to see your parents. She couldn't help but feel guilty toward Deng Mu. Lying to her own eldest grandson was truly wrong, but there was no other way. After returning, she would discuss with little San how to compensate her eldest grandson properly. If Tang San didn't come up with compensation that satisfied her, she would give her son a good lesson. Deng Mu said with a serious expression, yes, I will, grandmother. After I become a god, I will definitely help father. Listening to Deng Mu's words, Yin couldn't help but sigh that Deng Mu was such a good child. Having never met his parents, yet upon hearing they had their reasons, he wanted to become a god to help them. This child was simply too filial. She tightened her hold on Deng Mu a little more, though Deng Mu didn't feel any difficulty breathing. Good child, good child. Yin held Deng Mu, whispering this over and over, while silently blaming Tang San for being irresponsible. Seeing that Yin had been fooled, Deng Mu couldn't help but think to himself that people in the Douluo Continent were just too easy to trick. If this were any other world, they wouldn't believe it so easily. But thinking about it carefully, the women in the Douluo series didn't seem to have any normal ones. Basically, they were all lovesick. If anything happened, they would turn from being lovesick into twisted lunatics. A typical case was Bibai Dong, and a milder symptom was Liu Erlong. But that Liu Erlong, in order to vent, slaughtered the spirit beasts of several forests. If it weren't for Flenda stopping her and convincing her to open a school, many more spirit beasts would have died. Spirit beasts, damn it. Yin released Deng Mu, took out a bracelet from somewhere unknown, and said, Little Mu, this is a welcome gift from grandmother. This is a storage soul guidance device with a very large space inside. You can put whatever you want in it. After saying this, she taught Deng Mu how to use the storage soul guidance device. Immediately after, Yin said, there is some money inside. If you see anything you like, buy it without hesitation. If you run out of money, just tell grandmother, and I'll give you some more pocket money. She wasn't quite sure how much money was in the storage soul guidance device. Usually, she was responsible for spending, and Tang Hao was responsible for putting money into it. Upon hearing this, Deng Mu quickly refused. Grandmother, no need. I have my own money, and if I don't, I can earn it myself. He glanced at the storage soul guidance device, curious about how large its space was and how many gold coins were inside. This money was definitely meant for household expenses, but he wouldn't take it all out at once. Taking it all out at once wouldn't be a problem anyway. He now had Yin and the others as his backing, and both Yin and Tang Hao would certainly protect him well. After all, he was their only precious grandson. How could he not be protected? Moreover, if Tang San also misunderstood, he basically wouldn't have to worry about anyone in the Douluo Continent. Plus, Tang San might even help him get a god position, so he wouldn't have to rack his brain trying to find one himself. Someone like Tang San cared deeply about his eldest son. After all, before his transmigration, Tang San was from ancient times, and even in modern wealthy families, people cared deeply about their firstborn son. They generally cultivated their firstborn son with great care. Only if the firstborn was a hopeless case would they consider cultivating a second son. Seeing that Deng Mu was unwilling to accept it, Yin was uncharacteristically firm, forcing Deng Mu to accept it and putting it on him. Chapter 14. Tang San, I have a son. She felt more and more that Deng Mu was well behaved and sensible. He was a good child who needed to be properly compensated. Thank you, Grandma. Yin gently stroked Deng Mu's head, thinking that after returning she would find Tang San, demand all those ultimate arts, and then give them to Deng Mu. She naturally knew about the Tang Sect's ultimate arts. The reason she was going to ask Tang San for them was that the Tang Sect had already been destroyed, so she had no choice but to ask Tang San. If the Tang Sect was still around, she would have let Deng Mu enter the Tang Sect and lead the sect founded by his father. Helping Deng Mu become a god was not a difficult task. Once Deng Mu became a titled Douluo, she could simply arrange a god position for him, and while she was at it, bring about the rise of the Tang Sect. If he was unwilling, then so be it. She respected her eldest grandson's choice. She didn't know why, but the more she looked at her precious eldest grandson, the more she liked him. Yin kissed Deng Mu on the face and said, "Little Mu, come with Grandma. From now on, Grandma will take care of you." Upon hearing this, Deng Mu shook his head and refused. "Grandma, I can't. I still need to accompany my mother and sister right now. Mother is very good to me, and when I grow up, I still need to show filial piety to my mother." He had already decided in his heart that after becoming a god in the future, he would definitely bring Yan Yuhua up. If it were before, becoming a god would have been difficult for him, and wanting to trick Tang San to death would not have been easy. Even if he ran to find Guyuina now and gave her a few slaps, it was unlikely that Guyuina would kill Tang San. After all, Tang San was in the god realm. If he was seriously injured, he could go to the goddess of life for treatment. To make Tang San die, one would have to find someone capable of killing him instantly and repeatedly. Yin misunderstood him as Tang San's son, so he felt that becoming a god was not a difficult task. Although Tang San was a bit, well, he was still quite good to his own family, with the exception of Tang Wutong. He had lived for so long and read so many web novels, but this was the first time he had seen a protagonist split his daughter into several parts. Take Zyro Yan from next door, for example. He pampered his daughter like a treasure. Other protagonists were much the same, with the exception of Liu Bei literature and some individual novels. Looking at Douluo Continent, Tang San was quite respectful to his teachers and filial to his parents, but that couldn't cover up his flaws. He felt that during Douluo Continent the reason Tang San became that ghost of a person was because he couldn't withstand the temptation of power and became obsessed with it. Thinking about it carefully, it made sense. Before his transmigration, Tang San was just a sect disciple, and after his transmigration, no one had taught him knowledge in this regard, so becoming obsessed with power could be considered a normal occurrence. As for the things he did, he couldn't be bothered to roast Tang San. There were simply too many things to roast. Speaking of which, the god of destruction also seemed to be obsessed with power. The goddess of life didn't have many thoughts, while the god of kindness and the god of evil were having an affair, playing that Kaguya-Heim young miss act, which made one want to roast them. The only responsible one was the Asura god, but after seeing the ghostly state of his 4 colleagues, he brought Tang San over, passed the god position to Tang San, and ran away. Sometimes he even suspected that the Asura god couldn't stand being the only bachelor, while the god of destruction and the others were dating, so he chose to run away. He was a bit curious whether Tang San would discover he wasn't his son after he went to the god realm. He still hadn't figured out how Yin had determined he was Tang San's son. Although the spirit configuration was exactly the same, this kind of thing could be a coincidence. Besides, he didn't have the blue-silver emperor bloodline. It couldn't be that she judged it solely by the spirit, right? Listening to Deng Mu's words, Yin became increasingly satisfied with Deng Mu. Filial and grateful, he was a very good child. She would absolutely not let her precious grandson suffer. Whoever bullied her precious grandson, she would deal with them. On the Douluo Continent, there were not many people she couldn't deal with. Even if Tang San came, he would have to obediently call her mother. Yin left a trace of her own power on Deng Mu. If Deng Mu encountered any danger, her power would be able to protect him. She wouldn't interfere with his cultivate, lest she harm her eldest grandson, but she could help with the spirit ring. When checking Deng Mu's body, she discovered that her grandson's first spirit ring was actually 2,400 years old, which was an unprecedented event across the entire Douluo Continent. According to Deng Mu's current situation, the first 2 spirit rings could be millennial, and the subsequent ones could all be 10,000-year ones, but there was one prerequisite: his spirit must meet the requirements. Little Mu, Grandma has something to do and needs to leave now. Grandma will come to find you next time. Grandma, take care. Seeing that Yin was about to leave, Deng Mu bid her farewell, feeling a bit curious about what Yin was going to do. Could it be that Yin was going to the God realm to tell Tang San about this matter? After bidding farewell to Yin, Deng Mu turned and walked toward the city. Watching Deng Mu's departing back, Yin quickly headed to the God realm. She wanted to tell Tang San about this matter regarding Deng Mu. God realm, see God palace. Tang San looked at his condition with an ugly expression. He discovered that a problem had occurred in his most important area. He wouldn't be able to have children in the future, and whether he could even consummate a marriage was a question. He didn't understand what had happened, who wanted to cut off his Tang clan's lineage. If only he had a son, Tang San thought secretly in his heart. Before his transmigration, he was an ancient person, and he still valued tradition very much, though he hadn't shown it very obviously before. Third brother, Mom is here. Just as Tang San was worrying, Zyro Wu's voice rang out. Upon learning that his mother had come, Tang San hurriedly got up, left the study, and walked toward the living room. He was a bit puzzled in his heart. He remembered that his mother and father were enjoying their time as a couple, so why was only his mother returning to the God realm alone? Could it be that something happened to father? If that was really the case, he would definitely make that person pay the price. His family, the God King Tang San's family, was not something anyone could touch. Arriving at the living room, Tang San saw Zyro Wu and Yin chatting and laughing, which finally put his mind at ease. Mom! Tang San looked at Yin and called out to his mother with a smile. Hearing her son's voice, Yin looked in the direction of the sound. Seeing that Tang San had arrived, she stood up and came to Tang San. Yin smiled and said to Tang San, "Little San, Mom has something to tell you." Listening to his mother's words, Tang San understood his mother's meaning. Mom, let's go to the study to talk." Yin nodded, said a word to Zyro Wu, and then followed Tang San into the study. Although Zyro Wu was a bit puzzled, she didn't say anything and got up to go to the kitchen to make dessert for Yin. "Mom, what is it?" Entering the study, Tang San softly asked his mother. Listening to Tang San's words, Yin quietly told Tang San about the matter of Deng Mu. This matter could not be let Zyro Wu know, as it would cause problems in their relationship. After hearing Yin's words, Tang San was completely stunned. "I have a son." Chapter 15, Tang San's Plan. What his mother said must be true. She had no reason to lie to him. He understood his mother well enough to know she wouldn't be bored enough to tease him with such matters. As for someone else impersonating his son, that was also highly unlikely. Although his mother's strength wasn't necessarily top tier, she was still at the divine rank. For someone to deceive her, they would have to be an incredibly powerful god. But such a god would never do something as foolish as impersonating his son. Although he had some enemies now, their relationship hadn't reached the point where they would send someone to play the role of his son. Tang San began to recall his previous visit to the Douluo Continent. Some time ago, for certain reasons, he had made a trip to the Douluo Continent and accidentally met a woman who looked very much like Zyro Wu. Through a twist of fate, something happened between the two of them. He had simply committed a mistake that any man might make, and it had only happened once, so it didn't count as betraying Zyro Wu. Could it be that he had gotten her pregnant in one go? Thinking of this, Tang San couldn't help but calculate the time in his head, and suddenly realized it was actually quite possible. If that time had indeed resulted in conception, the child would be around 6 years old now. Since his mother was so certain, it could basically be confirmed that the child was his eldest son. The Tang clan would not end with him. Yin couldn't help but sigh and said, "Little San, that child is truly well-behaved, sensible and filial. When I told him you couldn't see him due to unspeakable difficulties, he said he would help you once he became stronger." Listening to his mother's words, Tang San felt immensely satisfied. He was worthy of being his seed. He had inherited his excellent genes. Tang San looked at Yin and said, "Mom, I had no idea about him, but I will make it up to him properly." He began to ponder how to arrange his child's future. According to his mother, his son was just like him, possessing twin spirits, the Blue-Silver Emperor and the Clear Sky Hammer. However, his son used the Blue-Silver Emperor for support, which was a different path than his own, but that didn't matter. It wouldn't affect his son's path to becoming a god. Using the Blue-Silver Emperor for support and the Clear Sky Hammer for damage output would be sufficient. If his son's talent was lacking, there were plenty of immortal herbs in the ice and fire yin-yang well that could change his talent and rapidly increase his strength. He had personally experienced the power of the immortal herbs, as had his friends and his teacher, and the results were excellent. Without the help of the immortal herbs, their rate of growth would have been much slower. The two biggest beneficiaries were Ning Rongrong and his teacher, Yu Xiaogang. Without that immortal herb, Ning Rongrong's spirit could never have evolved into the 9-treasure glazed tile pagoda. As for his teacher, without that immortal herb, he would never have reached level 30 in his entire life. For some reason, thinking of his teacher's phrase, "There are no useless spirits, only useless spirit masters," made him inexplicably want to laugh. Once his son's strength stopped improving, he would have his mother take him to the ice and fire yin-yang well to consume the immortal herbs. As for the god position, he had some ideas regarding the god positions of the goddess of life and the god of destruction. His son was taking a support path, which was perfectly suited for the goddess of life's god position, while the Clear Sky Hammer was suited for a pure damage output path, fitting the god of destruction's god position. He would need to plan for their god positions slowly. He couldn't let them discover that Deng Mu was Tang San's child, otherwise his son would never be able to obtain their god positions. The god of destruction was jealous of his talent and aptitude, so he hated him intensely. He would never pass his god position to Deng Mu. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. If the god of destruction was unwilling to pass it on, the goddess of life certainly wouldn't pass her god position to Deng Mu either, so they absolutely could not know that Deng Mu was his son. Once the god positions were passed to Deng Mu, there would be no need to hide this fact anymore. If his son obtained the god positions of the goddess of life and the god of destruction, from then on, the god realm would be under his control, and no one would be able to oppose him. The god of kindness and the god of evil. Neither of them even had real power. Their divine artifacts and god positions had been tampered with, so what could they use to oppose him? The god of kindness and the god of evil spoke nicely, claiming they hadn't fully passed on their positions for the sake of safety. In reality, they were just bored and had found two people to help manage things, and once they were done playing and returned, the god positions would be back in their hands. But once his son Deng Mu inherited both the god positions of life and destruction, it wouldn't matter if the god of kindness and the god of evil returned. By then, everything would already be under his control. Tang San suppressed his excitement, took a book from the bookshelf and said to Yin, "Mother, please take this book to little Mu when you return. Because of some matters, I cannot go to him during this time." The book's cover was very exquisite, with the 4 large characters, "Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record," written on it. This Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record was the complete version, without any abridgments, and he had even written the disorder-splitting windhammer method into it. It would come in handy now. He could pass it to his son to learn. He wasn't worried about the Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record being stolen or snatched away. He had left his power on it, and to take it away, one would need to reach his level of strength. If anyone tried to erase his power, he would be able to sense it. As for why he couldn't go down, it was because he had gone down once before, and the god of destruction had noticed, so he couldn't go down for a while. If the god of destruction relaxed his vigilance, it wouldn't be a problem for him to go down quietly. Yin took the Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record and said, "I will personally give the Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record to little Mu." She naturally understood why Tang San couldn't go down. Although she was often not in the god realm, her daughter-in-law would tell her about matters concerning the God realm. Tang San thought for a moment and said, "Mother, please do not tell her about little Mu. I will tell Zyro Wu myself." Listening to Tang San's words, Yin nodded. If I had wanted to tell her, I would have told Zyro Wu about little Mu long ago. She didn't know what to say about this matter, but since Tang San was her son, she naturally favored him and kept this matter hidden. After giving Tang San a few instructions, Yin turned and left the Sea God Palace to return to the Douluo Continent. Meanwhile, Tang San sat on his chair and began to ponder how to scheme for the god positions of the goddess of life and the god of destruction for his son. As for the god of destruction, there was no need to even think about it. The other party guarded against him like a thief, so there was no opportunity to make a move. However, regarding the goddess of life, there was plenty of room to maneuver. First, he needed the goddess of life to know about Deng Mu. Only after she knew of him could he proceed with the next part of his plan. He planned to go see the goddess of life tomorrow, mention Deng Mu inadvertently, praise him, and then intentionally or unintentionally suggest that he might pass his god position to Deng Mu to arouse the goddess of life's curiosity. Once the goddess of life became curious about Deng Mu, the plan would be half successful, and then he just needed to slowly guide the goddess of life to make her consider passing on her god position. Chapter 16, The Puzzled Jiang Nanan. The goddess of life wanted to pass on her god position to Deng Mu, so she would definitely tell the god of destruction about this matter. Given the personality of the god of destruction, he would certainly test Deng Mu. As long as Deng Mu passed the trials, he and the goddess of life would pass their god positions to Deng Mu together. Given their relationship, they would surely look for someone who could accept both god positions or a couple who could become gods. He only needed to secretly help Deng Mu pass the assessment when the god of destruction was testing him. Once the assessment was passed, as long as Deng Mu didn't die, obtaining the god positions of the god of destruction and the goddess of life would be a certainty. Deng Mu was his son, so naturally he wouldn't be killed by others. Even if he were killed by someone, it wouldn't be a problem. He could have Ning Rongrong and Oscar resurrect Deng Mu. Tang San remembered something and muttered to himself, "I can let little Mu make contact with that person and win that person over." Originally, he had wanted to let his daughter get close to that person, but knowing he had a son changed his mind, and at the same time, it sparked the idea of altering some plans. However, to be safe, Tang Wutong still needed to make contact with that person to avoid any accidents. Hugh finally better. Tanya got off the bed, stretching her body as she spoke. For over a month, she had spent basically all her time lying in bed. If it weren't for Deng Mu telling her interesting stories every day, she would have been bored to death. However, through the time spent together, her affection for this boy, who was 3 years younger than her, had grown significantly. It seemed she had truly started to like Deng Mu. Deng Mu sat on the bed and said with a chuckle, "Little ya, you've gained quite a bit of weight compared to before." Weight was a woman's sore spot. He naturally knew this, but he was just trying to tease Tanya. After all, there were no entertainment activities, and if not for cultivating to pass the time, he really wouldn't know what else to do. Sometimes he was incredibly grateful that he hadn't transmigrated into ancient Shenzhou. He wouldn't even know what he would do if he had transmigrated to ancient Shenzhou. For an ordinary person like him, if he were lucky, he might transmigrate into a small landlord's family. If he were unlucky, he might become a eunuch or something. If he really became a eunuch, it would be a fate worse than death for him. Hearing Deng Mu's words, Tanya's face turned slightly red, and she retorted, "No, I haven't gained weight. It will disappear after a while." She secretly made up her mind to lose weight during this period. Deng Mu chuckled and said, "It's okay, little ya, I don't mind you being chubby, you look quite good like this." Hearing this, Tanya pounced over, tackled Deng Mu onto the bed, and started tickling him. When she was chatting with Jiang Nanan before, she had inadvertently learned that Deng Mu was very ticklish and would lose all his strength when tickled, so she had remembered this. She hadn't expected this secret to actually come in handy. "Ha ha ha ha, little ya, let me go please. I shouldn't have said you were chubby, please stop tickling me." "I didn't get fat, you have to admit that I didn't get fat," Tanya said while tickling Deng Mu. She really couldn't stand it when others said she had gained weight. Didn't he know that you shouldn't tell a girl she had gained weight? Jiang Nanan looked at the playful Deng Mu and Tangya and smiled helplessly. She suddenly felt that Tangya and Deng Mu were a perfect match and were very suitable for each other. Although she and her brother would usually play around, the way they played was different from how Tangya and her brother played. She felt inexplicably jealous. She knew why she was jealous, because she and her brother usually played together, but ever since Tangya arrived, she felt like she had snatched her brother away. All right, little Ya, let little Mu go. He knows he was wrong. I'll let him go this time. If little Mu says that again next time, I'll tickle him for an hour. After a while, seeing that Deng Mu couldn't stop laughing, Jiang Nanan acted as a peacemaker and persuaded Tangya to let Deng Mu go. Listening to Jiang Nanan, Tangya reluctantly let Deng Mu go. Deng Mu lay on the bed, panting. He really couldn't understand why the habits from before his transmigration had also followed him. Could it be that he had transmigrated with his physical body? However, he remembered what was said online. If an ordinary person from Earth transmigrated to the Douluo Continent, they would be very strong. It seemed he had been lied to. But it didn't matter. Whether it was physical transmigration or soul transmigration, it couldn't affect his determination to become a god. If he hadn't had the system, he probably wouldn't have had this idea, but after getting the system, this thought emerged. Deng Mu felt that this era was the hardest time to become a god. After all, during this period, the Douluo Continent was becoming Tang San's backyard. During the time of the first Douluo, one could still try their luck, and as for the third Douluo, those with good talent could also become gods. They just didn't have a god position, which was much better than the second Douluo. Come to think of it, the second Douluo seemed to be the only installment where the teammates didn't become gods. Only the male and female protagonists became gods. As for the ultimate Douluo, he hadn't read it, so he didn't know the situation, but he felt that Lang Xunyu's teammates should have also become gods. Little Mu, Grandma has come to find you. Go to the place where we met last time. Grandma will be waiting for you there. Just at this moment, Deng Mu heard Yin's voice. Hearing Yin's voice, Deng Mu was a bit surprised. He hadn't expected Yin to return so quickly. It had been a long time since they last met, and he didn't know how much time had passed in the god realm. I know, Grandma. Deng Mu replied to Yin silently in his heart. He didn't know if this would allow Yin to hear him. After speaking in his heart, Deng Mu put on his shoes and got off the bed. Sister, little Ya, I'm going out for a while. I'll be back in a bit. Go early and come back early, brother. After saying goodbye to Tangya and Jiang Nanan, Deng Mu left in a hurry. Jiang Nanan looked at Deng Mu's back, feeling puzzled about what Deng Mu was going to do. Usually, Deng Mu didn't go out at night and always stayed at home. Today, him suddenly going out made her wonder what he was doing. After a while, Deng Mu arrived at the secret base and saw Yin waiting for him. Grandma, why did you come into the city to find me? Because Grandma doesn't want to disturb your life right now. Seeing Deng Mu arrive, Yin smiled and explained to him. Listening to Yin's words, Deng Mu nodded to indicate he understood. Immediately after, Yin took out the mysterious heaven treasure record and handed it to Deng Mu. Little Mu, this is what your father asked me to give to you. It records your father's life's learnings, so you must study it well. Deng Mu took the mysterious heaven treasure record. I will study hard and will definitely learn everything inside the mysterious heaven treasure record. He was curious if Tang San had added things like the disorder-splitting windhammer method into it. Chapter 17, Learning. The mysterious heaven treasure record is definitely the complete version. Since Tang San chose to have Yin give it to him, he basically believes that he is Tang San's son. Given Tang San's personality, it is unlikely that he would guard against his own child, unless Tang San suspects his identity. If he suspected his identity, Tang San shouldn't have let Yin give him the mysterious heaven treasure record. If he really ended up screwing over his own biological son, wouldn't that be a huge loss? Little Mu, if you encounter any urgent matters in the future, you can contact me in your heart, and I will rush over as quickly as possible. Deng Mu nodded, indicating that he already knew. He felt that he just needed to cultivate well now, and things like a god position would be arranged for him by someone. It must be said that binding to Tang San first was a wise choice. If he had bound to Hua Yuhao, he would likely only be able to share Hua Yuhao's spirit eye's spirit, and he would have to wait several years to leech off that million-year spirit ring. Yin looked at Deng Mu, thought for a moment, and kissed Deng Mu on the face. She thought to herself, Little San must have been like this when he was a child, right? Thinking that she had never seen Little San as a child and had not taken care of him, she felt very regretful. Tang Hao often told her about Little San. She knew that Little San had been very sensible and filial as a child, which made her heart ache for Tang San. If she had been alive at that time, she could have given Tang San a complete childhood. Deng Mu said somewhat embarrassedly, "Grandmother, what's wrong? Why did you suddenly kiss me?" This shyness was not faked. Being suddenly kissed by such a beauty, it was quite normal to feel shy. He was not like those protagonists in fanfiction novels who had rich combat experience and exceptionally good wives. He was just like most netizens, only good at talking big, with zero practical experience. Looking at the shy Deng Mu, Yin found him very cute, hugged him, and acted affectionately with him. Is there any problem with a grandmother kissing her own grandson? No problem, it's just that I'm a bit embarrassed. Hearing Deng Mu's words, Yin couldn't help but laugh, thinking Deng Mu was truly cute. An idea popped into her mind, but this idea would have to wait until Deng Mu grew up. It wouldn't be good to take Deng Mu away now. Remembering something, Deng Mu said to Yin, "Oh right, grandmother, the city gates are about to close. I need to go back quickly." Hearing Deng Mu's words, Yin gently put Deng Mu down. "Then you hurry back. Be careful on the way back. I will come to visit you when I have time." She thought to herself she would see her good grandson 4 times a week. After saying goodbye to Yin, Deng Mu ran toward the city, and Yin watched Deng Mu's back, only choosing to leave after Deng Mu had entered the city. After entering the city, Deng Mu began to think about whether or not to show the complete version of the mysterious heaven treasure record to Tang Ye. He felt that if Tang Ye saw the complete version of the mysterious heaven treasure record, she might not be able to accept that what their Tang sect had been cultivating all along was altered. However, thinking about it carefully, it was also quite normal. The founder of one's own school actually held back from their own sect members. If those who sacrificed for the sect knew this, they would definitely feel cold-hearted. After struggling for a moment, Deng Mu decided to show it to Tang Ye. As for how he obtained the complete version of the mysterious heaven treasure record, he would wait until Tang Ye asked him about it. If Tang Ye didn't ask, he wouldn't say. After a while, Deng Mu returned home, and as soon as he got back, he saw Yan Yuhua reading a book. Most commoners in the Douluo Continent are illiterate. One must awaken a spirit and possess spirit power to go to school and learn how to read. Before his transmigration, he was still wondering what these elementary schools in the Douluo Continent taught students. It was only through his sister that he learned what elementary schools taught. Elementary schools teach students literacy, history, and arithmetic, and also teach some basic knowledge about spirit masters. Other than that, there is nothing else. He knew the characters of this world because Yan Yuhua and Jiang Nanan taught him. Otherwise, he would still be an illiterate person who didn't know the characters of this world. Deng Mu suddenly understood why Yu Xiaorogang was called Grandmaster. Although Yu Xiaorogang's 10 great theories didn't amount to much in the eyes of those major forces, for civilian spirit masters, they were somewhat useful, though not very useful. Regarding knowledge about spirit masters, every faction kept it tightly hidden. Although schools taught some spirit master knowledge, this knowledge was all scraps. Unless it was that kind of top-tier school, they would only teach some important spirit master knowledge, and they wouldn't teach too much. If one wanted to learn more spirit master knowledge, there were only 2 choices. First, join a certain faction. Second, apprentice under powerful teacher and learn useful knowledge from them. Yu Xiaorogang combined the content he had learned with his own understanding and then published it. When those civilian spirit masters read it, they felt it made sense, and thus Yu Xiaorogang became Grandmaster. This explains clearly why, back when Yu Xiaorogang was at Notting Academy, the teachers looked down on Yu Xiaorogang, but it still couldn't change the fact that Yu Xiaorogang was a joke. The reason Yu Xiaorogang was scolded so severely online was, first, he was too trashy, and second, his ex-girlfriend was Bibai Dong, and his wife was Liu Erlong. Deng Mu looked at Yan Yuhua and asked, "Mom, where are sister and little Ye?" Yan Yuhua looked at the journey to the west in her hand and said, "They just went into the bathroom to take a shower. you go wash up after they finish. Hearing this, Deng Mu nodded. I understand, then I'll go back to my bedroom first. After speaking, Deng Mu walked toward his bedroom. He was now impatient to learn that content. As Deng Mu passed by Yan Yuhua subconsciously sniffed and smelled a faint fragrance coming from Deng Mu. She liked this fragrance very much. After just one sniff, she felt that her mental state was quite good. Strange, where is the woman's fragrance on little Mu coming from? Yan Yuhua thought to herself while reading Journey to the West. For some time now, she had discovered that Deng Mu was a bit strange. She couldn't clearly say where he was strange, she just felt he was a bit odd. Usually, she needed to go out to sell things to make a living. With the subsidies from Deng Mu and Jiang Nanan, it was enough, but she needed to prepare more money for their future. Back in his bedroom, Deng Mu began to study the mysterious Heaven Treasure record in his hand. While studying the mysterious Heaven Treasure record, Deng Mu discovered that Tang San's insights were left on this mysterious Heaven Treasure record, which allowed him to understand it more easily. At the same time, Deng Mu discovered some places in the mysterious Heaven Treasure record that had been altered or deleted. He really couldn't understand why Tang San would do this. The Tang Sect was his, after all. Could it be that he was worried about a bunch of geniuses popping up and affecting his rule? If that was really the case, then that would be too outrageous. Chapter 18: Tang Ye's Surprise. He was the founder of the Tang Sect and its faith. If a genius emerged from the Tang Sect and became a god upon ascension, they would certainly listen to Tang San. He likely founded the Tang Sect on the Douluo Continent just to make up for things before his transmigration. Before long, Deng Mu had committed the entire contents of the mysterious Heaven Treasure record to memory and was silently digesting the contents of the mysterious Heaven Treasure record and the insights left behind by Tang San in his mind. As long as he digested all of this, his strength and his understanding of the cultivation technique would improve significantly. Little brother, it's your turn to take a bath. Little Mu, it's time to take a bath. I don't know how much time had passed when the voices of Tang Ye and Jiang Nanan rang out. Hearing Tang Ye and Jiang Nanan's words, Deng Mu slowly opened his eyes. He had digested most of the content. After a good training session tomorrow, he would be able to completely digest the rest. Jiang Nanan saw the item placed beside Deng Mu and picked it up with some curiosity, saying, "Little brother, what is this? Where did you get it?" She thought this book was quite good. If she took it out to sell, she could make a lot of money. However, she was a bit puzzled about where Deng Mu had obtained such a valuable item. Deng Mu scratched his head and said, "This was given to me by a very handsome person who told me to lead the Tang Sect well and restore it to its peak." Hearing Deng Mu's words, Jiang Nanan nodded to show she understood. Tang Yu was very concerned and hurriedly asked Deng Mu, "Little Mu, can you tell me exactly what that person looked like?" For some reason, she vaguely felt that this person might be the one she was thinking of. If it really was that person, then Deng Mu was truly the hope for the Tang Sect's rise. Deng Mu thought for a moment and described Tang San's appearance to Tang Ye. If he said Yin gave it to him, Tang Ye definitely wouldn't know who that was, so just describing Tang San's appearance would suffice. Anyway, since Tang San had asked Yin to give the mysterious Heaven Treasure record to him, describing Tang San directly was perfectly fine. After listening to Deng Mu's description, Tang Ye wore a look of shock. Because she thought of one person, the Tang Sect founder, the sea god Tang San. Had Deng Mu really met the ancestor Tang San? This thought popped into Tang Ye's mind. Besides this possibility, she really couldn't think of any other. The reason she thought this way was because in this era, not many people knew what Tang San looked like, though many knew of the existence of a person named Tang San. Some even suspected that Tang San didn't exist at all, and was fabricated by someone in the Tang Sect, just to promote the Tang Sect and Shrek Academy. But in the end, the Tang Sect gradually declined, while Shrek Academy became better and better, becoming one of the top schools. Thinking of this, Tang Ye couldn't help but sigh in her heart. If Shrek Academy and the Tang Sect had worked together, the Tang Sect wouldn't have fallen into decline. Tang Ye held Deng Mu's hands and said, "Little Mu, you are the hope of the Tang Sect. If we work together, we will definitely be able to return the Tang Sect to its peak." Listening to Tang Ye's words, Deng Mu didn't know whether to laugh or cry, not knowing what to say. He hadn't expected Tangya to act like this, nor that she would believe his words. Jiang Nanan was a bit confused listening to the conversation between Tangya and Deng Mu. She didn't quite understand who the person they were talking about was. Who was this person? Could it be that this person was the founder of the Tang Sect, Tang San? That's impossible, right? Wasn't this person a figure from legends? How could he possibly appear? And even give the mysterious heaven treasure record to Deng Mu. Jiang Nanan began to carefully recall Deng Mu's sudden departure and return. Could it be? Suddenly, Jiang Nanan thought of a possibility. This possibility was extremely absurd, and she wasn't sure if it was true. She guessed that Deng Mu was very likely the child or descendant of the legendary sea god Tang San. But she felt the possibility of him being a child was very high because she had never heard of Tang San having children. If Tang San had descendants on the continent, the Tang sect likely wouldn't have declined. The reason she thought this way was because of Deng Mu's spirit and his background. Deng Mu's spirits were the Blue-Silver Emperor and the Clear Sky Hammer, and the Tang sect founder Tang San's spirits were also the Blue-Silver Emperor and the Clear Sky Hammer. Just this point alone didn't necessarily prove they were father and son. Back then, she and her mother had found Deng Mu. That couple had entrusted Deng Mu to them, begging them to take good care of him. Now that she thought about it carefully, it was very likely that Deng Mu was not that couple's child. It was possible they had found him and then entrusted him to them. Combined with Deng Mu's behavior today, this made Jiang Nanan convinced that Deng Mu was Tang San's child. The reason he suddenly wanted to go out earlier was 9 times out of 10 because Tang San had contacted him, telling Deng Mu to go out and get the mysterious heaven treasure record. Thinking of this, Jiang Nanan only felt that she was truly clever. Well, I'll go take a bath first. You two take a look at this mysterious heaven treasure record. There might be new content inside. Tangya picked up the mysterious heaven treasure record and nodded, indicating she understood. Since she had already confirmed in her heart that it was given by the ancestor Tang San, she certainly wouldn't be surprised if there was extra content inside. Jiang Nanan came over and sat down beside Tangya, looking at the mysterious heaven treasure record together with her. Seeing Jiang Nanan and Tangya looking at the mysterious heaven treasure record together, Deng Mu went to the bathroom to take a bath, and then entered a wooden barrel to soak. So comfortable. Deng Mu closed his eyes and couldn't help but sigh. Soaking in a bath was truly comfortable. In the past, he really didn't understand why so many people liked taking baths, what was so good about it. But after getting into the wooden barrel to soak, he, a southerner, felt it was quite comfortable and really liked this feeling. Ding Tang San drank a cup of ancient tea. Your mental force has increased. The next second, Deng Mu felt a surge of energy enter his brain, and he felt incredibly clear-headed. As expected of a god king, the things he drinks can all increase mental force. Deng Mu opened his eyes and couldn't help but exclaim about what Tang San was drinking. However, he liked the tea Tang San drank last time better. It had increased his vitality and mental force. It was truly a good thing. If he drank that stuff often, he felt he could live to be 200 years old, even without cultivating to a titled Douluo. Speaking of which, the lifespan settings in Douluo are quite strange. In Douluo Continent I, one could live for about 1,000 years, but in Douluo Continent II, it seems it's less than 200 years. It's really too absurd. With nothing to do, Deng Mu began to plan his future spirit ring configuration in his mind. He felt that by latching onto the Tang clan's thigh, his spirit ring configuration could be even better. For example, for the Blue-Silver Emperor, it could be purple, black, 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 red, red, red. As for the Clear Sky Hammer, he had a bold idea. All red is nothing. The first one should be a million-year spirit ring, and the rest should all be red. With the Blue-Silver Emperor taking the support route, he felt that Bai Jai could be his spirit soul, but he didn't know how to make her become one. He needed to find a way to talk to Gu Yuina. Collaborating with her might just work. Chapter 19. There seem to be very few normal people in Douluo. Unless absolutely necessary, Deng Mu did not really want to fight with others. If he truly became an enemy of Gu Yuina, he would eliminate her without hesitation. He would not choose to spare Gu Yuina just because she was beautiful. Sparing one's own enemy is the stupidest thing to do, regardless of whether one has some sort of cheat or not. An even stupider thing to do is to take an enemy into one's harem. He did not believe that an enemy would ever be sincere. He felt that other vicious beasts could become spirit rings for his clear sky hammer. Killing them to absorb them would not leave him worried about whether any problems would arise in his body. Since all side effects would go to Tang San, such side effects should be a drop in the ocean and harmless to Tang San. Speaking of which, Gu Yuina's goal was for the sake of the spirit beasts, so it would be necessary to wait for Hua Yuhao to create spirit souls, using them as the foundational bargaining chip for trade. Relying solely on spirit souls could not resolve the current situation of the spirit beasts. Someone needed to become the dragon god, and then laid the spirit beasts away from the Douluo Continent to other planets. Douluo 4 seems to be about this situation, but he had not read Ultimate Douluo, so he did not know the specifics. To become the dragon god, one needs to possess the Golden Dragon King bloodline and the Silver Dragon King bloodline, and obtaining these two bloodlines is a troublesome matter. Choosing to scheme against the two of them to death might take forever, so it would be better to scheme against Tang San instead. It has to be said that this dragon god fellow was truly a pit, truly undeserving of being the master of all spirit beasts. Why? As the master of all spirit beasts, before dying, he set a rule that unless the dragon clan revived or the dragon god reappeared, spirit beasts were not allowed to become gods. Is this something that the master of all spirit beasts should have set? In the eyes of the dragon god, spirit beasts were not as important as the dragon clan. Even if the spirit beasts all died out, the dragon clan could not be allowed to suffer any mishaps. Having selfish motives is quite normal, but for the master of all spirit beasts to do such a thing was extremely disgusting. Thinking about it carefully, there were very few normal people in the Douluo worldview. Tang San goes without saying with his double standards. Dai Mubai and the others all had problems. Zyro Wu and the others were all love-struck. Bibai Dong was mentally twisted and love-struck as well. Kaian Renxu was also love-struck. As for those gods in the god realm, there were not many normal ones either. Asura god could be considered normal, mainly because his screen time was not much. It felt like if he had more screen time, he would expose his problems. As for the sea god, he remembered him being the same as Oscar, extremely lecherous. Of the 5 god kings in Douluo, the other 4 were not very normal either. He remembered that the 5 god kings were originally one person, and that was the creator god. The creator god did not know what kind of madness took him to split himself into 5, and these 5 became the 5 god kings. Among these 5 god kings, the goddess of life and the god of destruction were together, while the god of evil and the god of kindness were having an affair. They were basically in a relationship with themselves. It was possible that the Asura god wanted to leave for this reason, finding a successor, and then running away. As for the 2nd generation god of evil and god of kindness, he forgot whether they had any problems. Mainly, their presence was not very high. After all, the 1st generation god of kindness and the 1st generation god of evil had placed some restrictions on the 2nd generation, so it would be easy for the 2 of them to return in the future. All right, what is the use of thinking about these messy things? Deng Mu patted his head and pulled himself out of his wild thoughts. He felt that there might be some intersection with them in the future, but this intersection would not be too deep. After changing his clothes, Deng Mu returned to the room and saw Jiang Nanan and Tang Ye, who were cultivating the mysterious heaven treasure record placed to the side by them. Taking a look at their state, it seemed like they had entered an epiphany state. Deng Mu did not choose to disturb the 2 of them, but instead closed the mysterious heaven treasure record and placed it on the table to the side. With the complete version of the mysterious heaven treasure record, it was estimated that it could still improve Tang Ye and Jiang Nanan's strength somewhat. The mysterious heaven treasure record contained a medicinal chapter, which he could study well and then use to regulate his mother's body, so as to avoid her contracting some strange illness like in the original work. He even less wanted his sister to sacrifice her purity to treat their mother's illness. Even if their mother contracted some strange illness at that time, it would not be a big problem because he still had a backer. For a god, treating someone's illness was an easy matter. If a god could not treat it, then one could basically just wait for death. There was no possibility of surviving unless one was the protagonist. Deng Mu climbed onto the bed and began to cultivate the mysterious heaven skill. For this period of time, he planned to let cultivation replace sleep, slowly adapting to this situation. However, he remembered that there were still quite a few spirit masters who chose to sleep to recover. It was probably just out of habit. The next day, morning. Not bad, the rank has already reached rank 14. After the breakthrough, Deng Mu opened his eyes and said to himself. His cultivation speed could be considered quite good, increasing by 1 rank in a little over a month. Hu Yuhao seemed to have increased by about 10 ranks in 1 year back then, which was already very outrageous. Sometimes Deng Mu felt that innate spirit power could not represent everything, but without innate spirit power, one should just honestly be an ordinary person. He remembered the only person who had no innate spirit power, but was eventually able to cultivate seemed to be a disciple of Tang San. That disciple had saved Tang San's life, and then Tang San passed the mysterious heaven treasure record to that person, and also gave him an immortal herb. Speaking of immortal herbs, one had to mention the ice and fire yin-yang well, and speaking of the ice and fire yin-yang well, one had to mention the big sucker Douluo Dalu. Guarding a gold mine, but not recognizing most of the things inside, was really too funny. That guy Chrysanthemum Douluo knew more immortal herbs than that guy Douluo Dalu. It was normal for Tang San not to teach Douluo Dalu to recognize immortal herbs. If he dared to teach Douluo Dalu would dare to kill Tang San afterwards. When Douluo Dalu first knew the method of detoxification, the thought of wanting to kill Tang San popped up. If Douluo Dalu had known that Tang San knew so many immortal herbs, Tang San would have 100% died in the ice and fire yin-yang well. If Tang Hao knew his son had died, he would kill Douluo Dalu at all costs. Basically, in Douluo fanfiction, Douluo Dalu was the big sucker who gave away immortal herbs. If Douluo Dalu recognized those immortal herbs, it was hard to say about becoming a god, but his rank could reach rank 99. As for Douluo Yan, at the very worst she could reach rank 99, and if she was lucky, she could attract the attention of some god. The ice and fire yin-yang well became Tang San's back garden, and not many people knew about this place. Hugh's finally a breakthrough. Jiang Nanan opened her eyes and let out a long breath, saying to herself, her mood was especially good right now. Her rank had now reached rank 17. At the current speed, she should be able to reach rank 20 next year. If it weren't for this cultivation technique, it would probably take longer to reach rank 20. She thought secretly in her heart that her little brother was truly a lucky star. If it weren't for her little brother, she felt that their family's life would not be lived very well. Chapter 20, Practicing the Disorder-Splitting Wind Hammer Method. Tanya listened to Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu, opened her eyes, and inwardly sighed at how truly gifted the siblings were. She estimated that at Deng Mu's current rate of cultivation, by the time he reached 12 years old, he should be able to reach around rank 31. Reaching rank 40 was basically impossible, unless a top-tier faction provided Deng Mu with massive resources, which might allow him to reach rank 40. Seeing Tanya remain silent, Jiang Nanan understood that Tanya had not improved her strength. She felt that Tanya's talent was mediocre, and that mysterious heaven skill deserved the credit for her reaching rank 15 at this age. The three of them left the bedroom and came to the courtyard to begin practicing the purple demon eye together. In the gradually brightening fish belly white of the distant horizon, a trace of faint purple kai seemed to flash. The appearance of the purple kai caused the three of them to focus their spirits completely. They even stopped exhaling, only inhaling slightly and slowly, while their eyes stared fixedly at the flickering purple kai. The purple kai did not appear for long. By the time the color of the morning sun completely covered the sky, the purple kai had vanished entirely. Two. The three of them let out long breaths, ending their practice of the purple demon eye. Breakfast is ready, come and eat. Just as they finished their practice, Yan Yuhua's voice rang out. Because of the need to practice the purple demon eye, the three of them had to wake up early. For this reason, Yan Yuhua got up a little earlier to make breakfast for the three of them. The higher the rank of the three of them, the happier Yan Yuhua was. If the three of them reached rank 31, they could become nobles. Although Spirit Hall had disappeared, because of the nation's policies, reaching the level of a spirit elder allowed one to become a noble. For major families and various factions, becoming a noble was nothing, but for commoners, it was the best opportunity to change their own destiny. After becoming a noble, one could marry a member of the opposite sex who was also a spirit master. If one were male, he could take more wives, have many children to strengthen the family, and eventually become a spirit master family. Hearing Yan Yuhua's words, the three of them went to wash up and then came to the dining room to eat. Yan Yuhua watched the three of them eating breakfast, then got up to prepare the goods to be sold today. Ever since Deng Mu became a spirit master and Tang Ye joined them, the family's situation was much better than before, and they didn't have to prepare piles of goods to sell every day. After a while, the three of them finished breakfast, and Yan Yuhua went out to sell the goods. Tang Ye looked at Deng Mu, thought for a moment, and said, "Deng Mu, from today on, you will practice the disorder-splitting wind hammer method in the morning, and in the afternoon, you will practice the Tang Sect's unique skills." She knew very well that the disorder-splitting wind hammer method was incredibly powerful. It was the unique skill of the Clear Sky Sect, where the power of each hammer strike increased compared to the previous one, stacking the attack power. The flaw of this cultivation technique was that it required a long charging process, and in actual combat, the enemy would never give you time to charge. However, pairing it with the Ghost Shadow Perplexing track could make up for this shortcoming. Thinking of the Clear Sky Sect, Tang Ye couldn't help but sigh. The current Clear Sky Sect lived in seclusion and did not appear in the world. If the Clear Sky Sect were not in seclusion, with their help, the Tang Sect might not have declined. One had to know that the founder of the Tang Sect, Tang San, was a member of the Clear Sky Sect. Tang San's uncle and grandfather were both sect masters of the Clear Sky Sect. Given this relationship, if the Tang Sect was struggling, the Clear Sky Sect could have helped, and it wouldn't have declined so quickly. I know. Listening to Tang Ye, Deng Mu nodded to indicate that he understood. Recalling carefully, the disorder-splitting wind hammer method was a continuous forging technique of the Clear Sky Sect that could fully unleash power. It was the strongest forging technique for removing metal impurities. Whether he learned about spirit tools in the future or used it for combat, he needed to practice the disorder-splitting wind hammer method. The disorder-splitting wind hammer method paired with the Ghost Shadow Perplexing track was quite good. In the afternoon, he would need to practice the Tang Sect's unique skills properly. He remembered that when Tang Hao trained Tang San, it seemed he had Tang San practice the disorder-splitting wind hammer method under a waterfall, and it was considered a success only when he could beat the waterfall back. Right now, he couldn't go under a waterfall to practice the disorder-splitting wind hammer method. Going under a waterfall to practice was essentially suicide. Only after his physical fitness improved significantly would he go under a waterfall to practice the disorder-splitting wind hammer method. After practicing the disorder-splitting wind hammer method, well, he could try to make hidden weapons. He really couldn't understand why hidden weapons could dominate in a Xuanhuan world. Wouldn't thermal weapons be able to kill a god king with one shot? Let's go out and practice. Tang Ye and Deng Mu listened to Jiang Nanan and followed her as they left the city. Although there was a small courtyard at home, it was too small and not very suitable for their training. After the three of them arrived at their secret base, Deng Mu began to practice the disorder-splitting wind hammer method. Targeting a large tree, the clear sky hammer appeared in Deng Mu's hand, and he began to practice earnestly according to the disorder-splitting wind hammer method in the mysterious Heaven Treasure record. The disorder-splitting wind hammer method consisted of 81 hammer strikes. It took a very long time to reach major achievement. Someone as gifted as Tang San didn't need much time to reach major achievement. Deng Mu felt that with his own talent, it was unlikely he could be like Tang San and achieve major achievement in the disorder-splitting wind hammer method in such a short time. He silently set a small goal in his heart. Within 3 years, he must at least reach minor achievement in the disorder-splitting wind hammer method, and if possible, reach major achievement between 6 to 10 years. He struck the tree a few times, smashing a large hole into the tree in front of him. That's not working. I can't even swing a few times before I'm done for. Deng Mu sat on the ground, panting, and thought about which step he was doing wrong. Practicing blindly on his own wouldn't allow him to quickly discover his problems. After all, he didn't have someone like Tang Hao, a master of the disorder-splitting wind hammer method, by his side. The reason Tang San could reach major achievement in the disorder-splitting wind hammer method so quickly was because Tang Hao was there to guide him. No one could reach major achievement just by reading books, except for an unparalleled genius. For an ordinary person to reach major achievement, it required diligent practice and a little bit of luck. After resting for a while, Deng Mu stood up, intending to continue practicing the disorder-splitting wind hammer method. "Little guy, watch me." Just at this moment, a large hand was placed on Deng Mu's shoulder, and a steady voice rang out. Deng Mu couldn't help but be startled, and instinctively looked in the direction of the voice. He saw a man who looked to be nearly 50 years old. The man's short hair stood up like steel needles, his awe-inspiring eyes were as resolute as an ancient demon god, and his muscles were bulging all over his body. Tang Hao. When he saw the man, Deng Mu instinctively felt that the other party was Tang Hao. Deng Mu looked at the man and asked, "This uncle, my name is Deng Mu, what is your name?" Hearing Deng Mu's form of address, the man's expression became a bit strange, and he coughed a few times. "I am your grandfather Tang Hao, not some uncle." Chapter 21, Tang Hao's Guidance. Tang Hao didn't know what to say about Deng Mu's way of addressing him. He felt a little fortunate that Yin wasn't around. If Yin heard how Deng Mu addressed him, he didn't know what would happen. Listening to Tang Hao's words, Deng Mu couldn't help but be surprised. He hadn't expected Tang Hao to come. He guessed Yin must have told Tang Hao and asked him to come teach him the clear sky hammer. Seeing Deng Mu remain silent, Tang Hao thought for a moment and said, "Your grandmother's name is Yin, and your father's name is Tang San." As he spoke, he carefully observed Deng Mu's appearance. He felt that the Deng Mu in front of him was much more handsome than Tang San was as a child, and his physique was also much stronger than Tang San's at that age. Tang Hao guessed that it was probably because Deng Mu was born after Tang San became a god, and Deng Mu inherited Tang San's advantages. And the aura released by Deng Mu's spirit was exactly the same as Tang San's, just much weaker than Tang San's, so he was definitely his son's child. At first he didn't quite believe it, but after sensing Deng Mu, he was certain that he was little San's child. However, he hadn't expected that this child little San would also awaken twin spirits, just like little San. The only difference was that little San's were blue silver grass and clear sky hammer, while Deng Mu's were blue silver emperor and clear sky hammer. Deng Mu's current rank was 14. To reach rank 14 at this age, he was truly a genius among geniuses. By the age of 12, his rank would definitely exceed 30. Perhaps his grandson could surpass little San and become the youngest titled Douluo, and also the youngest to become a god. Listening to Tang Hao's words, Deng Mu nodded in understanding. Then Deng Mu asked Tang Hao, "Grandpa, why did you suddenly come?" Tang Hao stroked Deng Mu's head and said, "Grandpa came to teach you the disorder-splitting wind hammer method and other unique skills of the Clear Sky Sect." At first, he wanted to take Deng Mu back to the Clear Sky Sect to cultivate him properly, but then he remembered Yin's words and gave up on that idea. He understood Yin's thoughts. If he took Deng Mu back to the Clear Sky Sect, those two people would know Deng Mu's identity, and they would definitely tell his daughter-in-law. If his daughter-in-law found out, their relationship might become discordant. While stroking Deng Mu's head, Tang Hao left a trace of energy within Deng Mu's body. This energy would protect Deng Mu's life. If any foolish person dared to act, that person would be instantly smashed into a pulp. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. And then thanked you for your hard work, Grandpa. It's no hardship at all. Tang Hao looked at Deng Mu with extremely kind eyes. He naturally doted on his first grandson. He shared the same view as Tang San. Girls were not as important as boys. However, this was normal, given the ancient way of thinking, especially among people from large families. People from large families placed great importance on family legacy and on their eldest son. Watch closely, I'll demonstrate the disorder-splitting wind hammer method for you once. Little Mu, if you have any questions, ask them after I finish. Understood, Grandpa. Deng Mu finished speaking and watched intently, wanting to remember Tang Hao's demonstration of the disorder-splitting wind hammer method. The clear sky hammer appeared in Tang Hao's hand, and he used the disorder-splitting wind hammer method to attack a large tree. Each attack wasn't very fast, and each strike only shattered a small part of the tree. Watching this scene, Deng Mu understood that Tang Hao wanted to fully demonstrate the disorder-splitting wind hammer method, so he would know what it looked like. At this moment, Deng Mu noticed something. Tang Hao's clear sky hammer was somewhat different from his own. Wait, could this be the great Sumeru hammer? The Great Sumeru Hammer condenses all spirit rings into one, injecting them all into the Clear Sky Hammer, transforming them into the purest power and attack power, geometrically increasing one's own strength, forcefully breaking through all restraints, and unleashing powerful strength that surpasses one's own spirit power. It follows the path of one force subduing 10 techniques, where no matter how many spirit abilities or techniques the opponent has, they cannot contend with the purest power and attack power of the Clear Sky Hammer. He used to wonder why the Great Sumeru Hammer spirit had never appeared, because he felt that the Great Sumeru Hammer was a higher form of the Clear Sky Hammer. Now that he saw Tang Hao's Clear Sky Hammer was different from his own, he couldn't help but guess that it was very likely that Tang Hao's strength reaching the divine rank caused the Clear Sky Hammer to evolve, but it hadn't completely evolved into the Great Sumeru Hammer yet. It should require reaching the second rank God level. If someone awakened the Great Sumeru Hammer spirit, their innate spirit power could probably also reach rank 20. Deng Mu felt that his Clear Sky Hammer might evolve into the Great Sumeru Hammer, probably when it was all red. As for Tang San's, he wasn't sure. Tang San was currently inseparable from his trident. Little Mu, what do you think? It's amazing. Grandpa's demonstration of the disorder-splitting wind hammer method has greatly benefited me. After watching Tang Hao's demonstration of the disorder-splitting wind hammer method, Deng Mu felt greatly enlightened and wanted to try it out. Listening to Deng Mu's words, Tang Hao nodded in understanding, sighing inwardly that Deng Mu's talent was even better than Little San's. However, hearing his eldest grandson's praise, Tang Hao felt delighted. Little Mu, give it a try. Deng Mu nodded, and the Clear Sky Hammer appeared in his hand. He swung the disorder-splitting wind hammer method at the large tree in front of him. Watching Deng Mu use the disorder-splitting wind hammer method, Tang Hao was extremely satisfied. Aside from a slight lack of strength and unfamiliarity, everything else was quite good. Bang! On Deng Mu's 15th hammer strike, the large tree couldn't withstand Deng Mu's attack, broke and fell to the ground. Phew! Not bad, it's already quite good to land 15 hammer strikes on your second attempt. It's just that your body needs more training, your physical fitness hasn't met the standard yet. Tang Hao, standing by, evaluated Deng Mu's disorder-splitting wind hammer method, quickly formulating a training plan for Deng Mu in his mind. Deng Mu was young, so he couldn't be given a high-intensity training plan, as that would affect Deng Mu's development. He certainly didn't want his eldest grandson to become an underdeveloped shorty. However, Deng Mu's physical fitness was unmatched by any of his peers, and his physical fitness was much stronger than that of most spirit grandmasters. A bold idea popped into Tang Hao's mind. He would find some heaven and earth treasure to enhance Deng Mu's mental force and physique. Before Deng Mu reached rank 20, he should be able to absorb a 10,000-year spirit ring. If not, then he would settle for absorbing a 9,900-year spirit ring. That way, when Deng Mu reached rank 30, he could absorb a 10,000-year one. When his body could withstand a 100,000-year spirit ring, he could help Deng Mu find a 100,000-year spirit beast. As for how many 100,000-year spirit rings Deng Mu's Clear Sky Hammer could have, that would depend on luck. Deng Mu paused for a moment and said, I understand, I will train my body well. Chapter 22, Great Sumeru Hammer Hypothesis and Experiment. Immediately after, Deng Mu asked Tang Hao, by the way, grandfather, is the hammer in your hand a Clear Sky Hammer? Tang Hao nodded and showed the Clear Sky Hammer to Deng Mu. That's right, this is my spirit, the Clear Sky Hammer. Hearing this, Deng Mu leaned in and carefully observed Tang Hao's Clear Sky Hammer. It was indeed different from his own Clear Sky Hammer. It looked somewhat like a Great Sumeru Hammer, but it hadn't completely transformed into a Great Sumeru Hammer. After looking at Tang Hao's Clear Sky Hammer for a while, Deng Mu asked Tang Hao, Grandfather, does our Clear Sky Hammer have a higher form? Hearing Deng Mu's question, Tang Hao couldn't help but pause for a moment before answering, yes, that form is called the Great Sumeru Hammer. The Great Sumeru Hammer was a divine rank skill. He remembered his father telling him that it was originally supposed to be a divine rank skill, and only by achieving a breakthrough of level 100 could one fully unleash the power of the Great Sumeru Hammer. There was also a rumor in the Clear Sky Sect that the Clear Sky Hammer had a higher form named the Great Sumeru Hammer, but no one could reach this form or create the Great Sumeru Hammer form. Deng Mu looked at Tang Hao's Clear Sky Hammer and said, Grandfather, have you noticed something? my clear sky hammer and your clear sky hammer are a bit different. Listening to Deng Mu's words, Tang Hao looked at his own clear sky hammer and Deng Mu's clear sky hammer. After looking at both of their clear sky hammers, Tang Hao was surprised to find that it was indeed as Deng Mu said. The two clear sky hammers were somewhat different. Deng Mu proposed his hypothesis. Grandfather, I have a hypothesis regarding the Great Sumeru Hammer, but you need to tell me about the Great Sumeru Hammer so I can determine if it is what I think. Hearing this, Tang Hao was a bit curious about what his eldest grandson was thinking and what hypothesis he could have about the Great Sumeru Hammer, so he told Deng Mu what he knew. Listening to the information about the Great Sumeru Hammer, Deng Mu became increasingly certain of his own thoughts. To make the clear sky hammer evolve into the Great Sumeru Hammer, one needed to reach divine rank or possess the power of a deity. After listening, Deng Mu nodded and said, Grandfather, my hypothesis regarding the Great Sumeru Hammer is that one needs to reach divine rank or possess the power of a deity to allow the clear sky hammer to evolve into the Great Sumeru Hammer. Tang Hao couldn't help but recall the scenes of using the Great Sumeru Hammer in the past. After he became a god, he hadn't looked closely at his own spirit. If it weren't for his good eldest grandson noticing the changes in his clear sky hammer, he might have needed a long time to discover the changes in the clear sky hammer, or perhaps he might never have noticed this matter at all. At this moment, he recalled how the rumors about the Great Sumeru Hammer came about. The first rumor was that an ancestor of the Clear Sky Sect was a deity who possessed the Great Sumeru Hammer, but his descendants could not withstand the power of the Great Sumeru Hammer, so they could only achieve the awakening of the Clear Sky Hammer. That deity passed down the skill of the Great Sumeru Hammer, hoping that future generations could make the Clear Sky Hammer evolve into the Great Sumeru Hammer. After he became a god, he never met this deity, and he didn't know if this deity had died or what had happened. The second rumor was similar to the first. An ancestor of the Clear Sky Sect was a deity who possessed the Great Sumeru Hammer, and because his descendants could not withstand the power of the Great Sumeru Hammer, the Great Sumeru Hammer was sealed, and the sealed Great Sumeru Hammer became the Clear Sky Hammer. Now it seemed that the possibility of the second rumor being true was high. Deng Mu, he is truly a killen of our Tang clan. Tang Hao sighed inwardly. Little Son had a good child. However, he couldn't teach the Great Sumeru Hammer to his eldest grandson right now. It wasn't because he was guarding against Deng Mu, but because learning the Great Sumeru Hammer required a uniquely gifted genius with excellent physical fitness. If one wasn't, it was absolutely impossible to cultivate it successfully, and it would instead pose a danger to life, so it could only be passed down to one person per generation as a legacy. Grandfather, I want to try. I need your power to inject energy into my Clear Sky Hammer. All right. Tang Hao nodded to show he understood, and began to inject his own power into Deng Mu's Clear Sky Hammer. Deng Mu felt a surge of energy rapidly break through the layers of restraints on the Clear Sky Hammer. These restraints didn't exist originally, but after the energy impact, he could feel them, and soon it reached the final layer of restraints on the Clear Sky Hammer. Little Mu, if you can't take it, tell me. Tang Hao injected energy into Deng Mu's Clear Sky Hammer once again, breaking through this layer of restraint. Crack! When the energy broke through this layer of restraint, Deng Mu heard a shattering sound, and immediately after, the Clear Sky Hammer underwent a change. The Clear Sky Hammer turned crimson red, and golden patterns covered the Clear Sky Hammer. Tang Hao looked at Deng Mu's spirit and said in surprise, "It really is true. The Clear Sky Hammer can truly evolve into the Great Sumeru Hammer. No wonder so many people in the Clear Sky Sect have never possessed the Great Sumeru Hammer." However, he was clear that Deng Mu's Great Sumeru Hammer was only temporary. Once his power was exhausted, the Great Sumeru Hammer would regress into the Clear Sky Hammer. This gave him an idea, to use his own power to nourish Deng Mu's Clear Sky Hammer, and later, after absorbing a spirit ring, it might be able to evolve into the Great Sumeru Hammer. The restraints of the Clear Sky Hammer had already been broken by his power, and in the future, with enough energy, it could almost certainly evolve into the Great Sumeru Hammer. And for him, he could only cultivate slowly to let the Clear Sky Hammer completely evolve into the Great Sumeru Hammer. There was no other way. The stronger one's strength, the more energy required to evolve. An idea popped into Tang Hao's mind, to find 100,000-year spirit beast for Deng Mu, allowing them to become the spirit for his eldest grandson's Clear Sky Hammer, which would provide enough energy to evolve into the Great Sumeru Hammer. Meanwhile, Deng Mu silently felt the great Sumeru hammer, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart that the great Sumeru hammer was truly powerful, and should be considered a divine rank spirit. He felt that if a great Sumeru hammer were paired with a spirit ring, he might be able to fight a three-ringed master. Disorder-splitting wind hammer method. Deng Mu switched to a large tree and used the disorder-splitting wind hammer method on the large tree. With just a single hammer strike, he broke the large tree in front of him. Seeing this, Deng Mu sighed in his heart that the great Sumeru hammer was truly amazing. He had only struck once, and it broke the large tree in front of him. Deng Mu felt that when he reached the titled Douluo level and had the great Sumeru hammer, it would be unlikely for other titled Douluo to defeat him. Not bad, the power has increased several times over. Tang Hao, who was on the side, evaluated the power of Deng Mu's strike just now. A few minutes later, Deng Mu's great Sumeru hammer regressed back into a clear sky hammer. Tang Hao came to Deng Mu, touched Deng Mu's clear sky hammer, and said, "I have left 3 streams of power in your clear sky hammer. This power can allow your clear sky hammer to evolve into the great Sumeru hammer for combat, but each can only last for 10 minutes. He originally wanted to leave more energy in Deng Mu's clear sky hammer, but Deng Mu's clear sky hammer couldn't withstand that much energy, so he could only leave 3 streams of energy. Deng Mu nodded and said, "Thank you, grandfather." For some reason, Deng Mu felt that Tang Hao and Yin were very doting on him, but didn't seem to dote on Tang Wutong as much. Was it an illusion? Chapter 23. Does the Tang clan seem a bit biased towards boys? Yin and Tang Hao should be treating everyone equally. It's unlikely they would be biased towards boys, right? They treat him like an illegitimate child now, feeling that he has suffered quite a bit, which is why they are so good to him. Deng Mu asked Tang Hao with some curiosity, "By the way, Grandpa, do I have any older brothers or sisters?" Hearing Deng Mu's question, Tang Hao couldn't help but be stunned. He hadn't expected Deng Mu to actually ask this. After hesitating for a moment, Tang Hao chose to tell the truth. "You have an older sister named Tang Wutong." Looking at Deng Mu, Tang Hao sighed inwardly, thinking that the personalities of Deng Mu and Tang Wutong must have been swapped. He felt that Deng Mu had a quiet personality, while Tang Wutong's personality was very lively, and both were very lovable. However, he felt that Tang Wutong's lively personality should have been on Deng Mu, and Deng Mu's quiet personality should have been on Tang Wutong, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Deng Mu thought for a moment and asked, "Grandpa, then where is my sister now?" Tang Hao recalled for a moment and said, "She is at the Clear Sky Sect right now. Do you want to go see your sister?" Deng Mu shook his head and refused. "No, it's better not to see my sister right now." If he met Tang Wutong, no, it should be Wang Donga. At this time, those 2 guys, Da Ming and Ming, would know of his existence, and then there would be some fun to be had. Both of them liked Zyro Wu, though Zyro Wu didn't know about this, but his appearance might let them see hope again. Ming, I didn't expect Tang San to be this kind of person." Da Ming, sigh. Thinking of this scene, Deng Mu couldn't help but crack a smile. It was just too funny. If Zyro Wu knew, she would probably have some conflict with Tang San, only to be coaxed back by him eventually, since she was a love-struck vase after all. Speaking of which, Tang Wutong's memory was currently sealed by Tang San. He didn't quite understand Tang San's behavior. Was he worried that Tang Wutong couldn't handle the hardship of cultivate? The plot of the unrivaled Tang Sect was a bit messy in his head. Before his transmigration, he had read quite a few fanfictions, and he had forgotten which parts were the original plot and which were fanfiction. Fanfiction has misled me. Deng Mu sighed silently in his heart, feeling a little bit of regret. Why did he read so much fanfiction before his transmigration? Now he could only rely on his understanding of Douluo to view this period of the unrivaled Tang Sect. Speaking of which, do Tang Hao and Yin know about this? As grandparents, they shouldn't agree with this matter. Saying they don't know feels like an unlikely thing. It's impossible that Yin and Tang Hao never saw Tang Wutong once before she went to Shrek, right? If that were really the case, it would mean they really disliked Tang Wutong. The most likely scenario is that Yin and Tang Hao knew Tang Wutong's memory was sealed, but they didn't say anything, respecting Tang San's approach. In that case, the Tang clan must be biased towards boys. Tang Hao was a bit curious upon hearing this, he had thought Deng Mu would go to see his sister, whom he had never met. He was still struggling with how to prevent Deng Mu from meeting Tang Wutong. Seeing that Tang Hao was curious, Deng Mu scratched his head and said, "I know I am an illegitimate child. If I go to see my sister now, it will cause a lot of trouble. I had better wait until father handles things before going to see my sister." Hearing Deng Mu's words, Tang Hao was extremely astonished. He hadn't expected Deng Mu to actually know he was an illegitimate child. At the same time, he sighed with emotion. Deng Mu was truly sensible. Knowing his own background, he didn't make a fuss or do anything else, which made Tang Hao feel heartbroken for him. Tang Hao felt that Deng Mu was definitely Tang San's seed, as filial and sensible as Tang San, and had inherited Tang San's merits. Back when Yin died, he had taken Tang San to hide in Saint Spirit Village, usually earning a bit of money to raise Tang San. Later, when Tang San grew up a bit and could take care of himself, he indulged in drinking. From then on, it was Tang San who took care of him. Now, every time he thought about it, he felt ashamed and felt he had let his son down. "Good child." Tang Hao stroked Deng Mu's head and said softly to Deng Mu. He secretly thought in his heart that he must find at least 900,000-year spirit beast for his grandson. Deng Mu smiled at Tang Hao's words, not saying anything. He reckoned that even if he said he wanted to see Tang Wutong, there was a 90% chance Tang Hao wouldn't let him go see her. Tang San was most likely in the heavens right now, thinking about how to work on Xiao Wu's mindset. If word got out that he had a child down below, the god of destruction would probably mock Tang San to death. "Little Mu, when your disorder-splitting wind hammer method reaches minor achievement, I will come to find you again." "Okay, Grandpa, be safe on your way." After saying goodbye to Deng Mu, Tang Hao quickly left the place. He had just sensed someone coming, and he didn't want to expose himself at this time. "Little Mu, how is your practice of the disorder-splitting wind hammer method going?" Tang Ye and Jiang Nanan came to Deng Mu's side, and Tang Ye asked Deng Mu with a smile. Seeing the two broken trees, Jiang Nanan showed an expression of surprise. Looking at the hammer marks left on them, Jiang Nanan secretly thought that her little brother was truly amazing. It hadn't been long since he started practicing the disorder-splitting wind hammer method, and he could already easily break 2 large trees. At the same time, she marveled that the disorder-splitting wind hammer method was truly powerful. It was worthy of being one of the unique skills of the Clear Sky Sect. During previous training, she had heard Tang Ye introduce the disorder-splitting wind hammer method. The disorder-splitting wind hammer method was one of the unique skills of the Clear Sky Sect. A thought popped into Jiang Nanan's mind at this moment. Deng Mu should return to his ancestors and join the clan. Although she didn't know about the Clear Sky Sect, through the power caused by the disorder-splitting wind hammer method, she knew that this Clear Sky Sect must be a powerful sect. It should also be a hidden sect. She had heard her teacher say before that there were quite a few hidden sects in this world. If Deng Mu returned to the Clear Sky Sect, given Deng Mu's talent, he would definitely be heavily cultivated by the Clear Sky Sect, and there would be people specifically helping him hunt Spirit Beast. Staying here meant he had to figure out the disorder-splitting wind hammer method all by himself, and hunting Spirit Beast required him to find his own way. Deng Mu pointed to the 2 trees that had fallen on the ground and said, "Not bad, but I still need to practice more." Tang Ye looked in the direction Deng Mu pointed and saw the 2 trees on the ground, showing an expression of shock. Tang Ye paused for a moment and looked at Deng Mu, saying, "So amazing to be able to cause such great power in less than a day." She felt that with this destructive power, if Deng Mu encountered a spirit elder level powerhouse, he could fight them for 300 rounds. Now she only felt that Deng Mu was worthy of being Tang San's child, having inherited Tang San's talent. Perhaps Deng Mu could also become a god in the future. Thinking that Deng Mu was very likely to become a god in the future, Tang Ye was extremely excited in her heart. In the future, the Tang sect would definitely rise. And the wishes of everyone in their Tang sect would be realized before long. Deng Mu scratched his head and said with a smile, "It's all right, little Ye, how is your practice going?" Chapter 24, Tang San's Confirmation. Jiang Nanan replied, "It's going well. If I practice Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track for a while longer, I should be able to reach minor achievement." Among those Tang sect techniques, she felt that Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track and Controlling Crane Catching Dragon were the most suitable for her. The others were good too, but they didn't feel as fitting as Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track and Controlling Crane Catching Dragon. Tanya sighed and said, "My situation isn't great, I've hit a bottleneck." She felt that her talent was just too poor, making it impossible to achieve a breakthrough quickly. At the same time, she sighed inwardly, thinking that Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu's talents were truly excellent. If the Tang sect hadn't declined, the two of them would definitely be top-tier existences. Deng Mu comforted Tanya, "Little ya, don't be anxious. I suspect you lack actual combat experience. You and Big Sister should practice for a while longer. Once Big Sister reaches minor achievement, you two can spar, and that way you might be able to break through your bottleneck." Listening to Deng Mu's words, Tanya felt it made sense and nodded. "That makes sense. I probably am lacking in actual combat." Deng Mu's words reminded her of her father's words. Actual combat is the best way to improve. Previously, she had just been practicing on her own, only occasionally sparring with her parents. Jiang Nanan agreed, "I think that works. We'll have a good spar then." Remembering something, Deng Mu asked, "By the way, Big Sister, Little ya, why did you suddenly come here?" Tang Hao had just left, likely due to the arrival of Tanya and Jiang Nanan. If they hadn't come, Tang Hao would have taught him for a while longer. But it didn't matter, the current top priority was training his body. Once his body training was complete, he would be able to learn other Clear Sky Sect techniques, as the Clear Sky Sect's techniques relied heavily on physical strength. Tanya answered first. "Just now, Nanan said she heard someone else's voice over here, so we came to see what was going on." Upon hearing this, Deng Mu explained to Jiang Nanan and Tanya, "It's like this. While I was practicing the disorder-splitting wind hammer method just now, I met an uncle. He chatted with me for a bit and then left." Hearing Deng Mu's explanation, Jiang Nanan and Tanya nodded to show they understood. Since Deng Mu didn't want to say more, they didn't feel it was appropriate to keep questioning him. "All right, Big Sister, Little ya, you two go back to training. I'm going to continue practicing the disorder-splitting wind hammer method." After bidding farewell to Deng Mu, Jiang Nanan and Tanya returned to where they had been practicing and resumed their training. Seeing them leave, Deng Mu continued practicing the disorder-splitting wind hammer method. Ding detected that Tang San is secretly observing the host, beginning to share Tang San's bloodline. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the Blue-Silver Emperor bloodline. Seeing the system's notification, Deng Mu looked completely bewildered. So after all this time, he never actually had the Blue-Silver Emperor bloodline. He only possessed the Blue-Silver Emperor spirit and the Blue-Silver domain. Wait, then how did Yin think he was Tang San's child? If he possessed the Blue-Silver Emperor and Clear Sky Hammer spirits, and also had the Blue-Silver Emperor bloodline, then being mistaken wouldn't be an issue. But he didn't have the Blue-Silver Emperor bloodline. Could Yin really have just decided he was Tang San's child based solely on his spirit? Deng Mu asked the system internally, "System, what's the deal with my spirit then?" Replying to the host, this system directly copied Tang San's spirit. The domain is basic and requires the host to upgrade it themselves, so the host did not have the Blue-Silver Emperor bloodline. However, this system just detected that Tang San is secretly observing you. To avoid unnecessary accidents, this system copied Tang San's Blue-Silver Emperor bloodline. Damn! After hearing the system's explanation, Deng Mu couldn't help but curse inwardly. But it was a good thing the system took action, avoiding unnecessary trouble. Otherwise, if Tang San had found out, who knows what would have happened. By the way, system, can any blessing be shared? That's correct. I've spotted a blind spot. For example, if I bind myself to someone, and that person happens to be getting married today and consummates the marriage with his wife, wouldn't I also? Not to that extent, not to that extent. This system is not beastly to that degree. It's harder. On the other side, in the God Realm's central hub, Tang San, having just finished handling matters, had a sudden whim to check on his illegitimate son and confirm whether he was indeed his child. It wasn't that he didn't trust his mother, he was just worried his mother might have made a mistake. When he saw Deng Mu's appearance, Tang San felt somewhat certain that Deng Mu was his child. Besides him, Tang San, no other child of this age could possess this level of good looks. He could also sense the same Blue-Silver Emperor bloodline from Deng Mu. The only people who possessed the Blue-Silver Emperor bloodline were him and his mother. Apart from them, no one else possessed the Blue-Silver Emperor bloodline. Although there was another Blue-Silver Emperor on the Douluo Continent, that Blue-Silver Emperor had not yet transformed into human form. Even if it had transformed, he would be able to tell the difference. Moreover, when a spirit beast transforms, it uses itself as its spirit. It is impossible to possess a second spirit. This allowed him to be certain that Deng Mu was his, Tang San's, child. Watching Deng Mu practicing the disorder-splitting wind hammer method, Tang San sighed inwardly. As expected of his, Tang San's, offspring, even while practicing the disorder-splitting wind hammer method, he had the same demeanor he had back in his day. Tang San looked at Deng Mu, stroked his chin, and muttered to himself, "He must be my child. I must have been a bit too suspicious before." Having confirmed that Deng Mu was his child, Tang San began to ponder how to arrange opportunities for this good son of his. This was his eldest son. Although he was an illegitimate child, his status as the eldest son could not be changed. In the future, Deng Mu would become his right-hand man, so when it came to opportunities, he would definitely arrange the best ones. As for Tang Wutong, as an older sister, she certainly needed to take good care of her younger brother. Once Deng Mu went to Shrek to attend school, he would arrange for the two of them to live together to foster their sibling bond. As for Deng Mu's future wife, he already had someone in mind. He had previously been wondering how to pull that person into his camp, but until his son appeared, he hadn't thought of a good way. Let her become his daughter-in-law. Her status could barely match his, the God King Tang San's, child. He had already thought of a new name for his son, and he was very satisfied with this name. "Third brother, what are you doing?" Just at this moment, Zyro Wu's voice rang out. Hearing the voice, Tang San instinctively looked over and saw Zyro Wu carrying desserts, heading in his direction. Looking at Zyro Wu, Tang San smiled and walked over to her side, saying, "Zyro Wu, why are you here?" Zyro Wu handed the desserts to Tang San. "I saw that third brother was working too hard, so I made some food for you." Listening to Zyro Wu's words, Tang San reached out and stroked Zyro Wu's head. "By the way, Zyro Wu, if we had a son, what do you think would be a good name for him?" Third brother, that question has stumped me. I can't think of one for now. Third brother, what name do you think is good?" Tang Wulin. Chapter 25, The First 10,000-Year Spirit Ring. Hearing the name Tang Wulin, Zyro Wu felt that it was quite a nice name. When she had a son in the future, she would give him this name. However, why did third brother suddenly ask this question? This matter made Zyro Wu feel a bit puzzled, but this doubt soon vanished. She believed in third brother. He would not do anything to wrong her. He loved her so much, how could he possibly do something to betray her? Zyro Wu smiled at all this and said, "Third brother, then I won't disturb you. I'm going to go find Rongrong and the others." Tang San put down the dessert. Go ahead, Zyro Wu." After saying goodbye to Tang San, Zyro Wu left the God Realm's central hub and flew towards Ning Rongrong's home. In the blink of an eye, a year and a half had passed. Finally reached level 20, it wasn't easy. Deng Mu opened his eyes, stretched his body, and muttered to himself. According to his initial speed of cultivate, he could have reached level 20 in at most a year. But because of the Clear Sky Hammer, a portion of his spirit power was absorbed by the Clear Sky Hammer during cultivate, causing him to be half a year slower than expected, but it didn't matter. As long as his spirit power was sufficient, his Clear Sky Hammer could evolve into the Great Sumeru Hammer. During this year and a half, Ah Yin and Tang Hao had come to visit him many times. Tang Hao had also brought many heaven and earth treasure that boosted mental force for Deng Mu to consume. He also prepared many medicinal baths to improve his physique, which had significantly enhanced his physique. Now, his purple demon eye had already reached the mustard realm, thanks to those heaven and earth treasure from Tang Hao that allowed him to reach the mustard realm so quickly. Tang San was only able to reach the mustard realm by relying on immortal herb. The disorder-splitting wind hammer method and the Tang Sect's unique skills had all been practiced to major achievement. Deng Mu felt he was a genius at martial arts. Deng Mu left his bedroom and came before Jiang Nanan. "Big sister, I'm going out for a bit." Jiang Nanan looked at the novel in her hands and nodded to indicate she knew. Beside her, Tang Yu was reading a novel with great relish. She had been a bit obsessed with reading novels lately. She had originally intended to train, but Jiang Nanan and Deng Mu told Tang Yu to balance work and rest, and to take a good rest during this period. Deng Mu looked at Jiang Nanan and the other who were reading novels, feeling a bit helpless, and left the house to walk towards the secret base. They had made an appointment some time ago that Tang Hao would come these few days to take him to hunt a 10,000-year spirit beast. After a while, Deng Mu arrived at the secret base and saw Tang Hao waiting for him. "Grandfather, good morning." "Good morning, little Mu." Tang Hao gently stroked Deng Mu's head, revealing a kind expression. He sighed in his heart that Deng Mu was indeed the Qilin of his Tang clan, able to upgrade to level 20 in just over a year, a feat unprecedented and unrepeatable in the entire history of the Douluo Continent. He had a premonition that Deng Mu could become the youngest titled Douluo, and at the same time, the youngest deity. "Grandfather, let's go." Tang Hao heard Deng Mu's words, regained his focus, and responded to Deng Mu. He had already selected the spirit beast for Deng Mu. That spirit beast was called the Emerald Spirit Deer. It resembled a deer with an elegant build. Its fur was emerald green like jade and shimmered with a mysterious luster. Its antlers were like fresh, tender branches, growing vibrant green leaves, and its eyes were like clear green gemstones, lively and spirited. It moved lightly as if it were an elf of the forest. The Emerald Spirit Deer was a very rare spirit beast, extremely suitable for a support system spirit master. Tang Hao picked up Deng Mu, used his own spirit power to protect Deng Mu, and flew rapidly towards the direction of the Stardew Great Forest. Deng Mu in Tang Hao's arms looked curiously downwards. It was his first time experiencing flight, and he found it very novel. He secretly thought to himself that when he could fly in the future, he would experience the feeling of flying fast. Before long, Tang Hao and Deng Mu arrived within the Stardew Great Forest. As soon as they arrived in the Stardew Great Forest, Tang Hao used his divine sense to search for the Emerald Spirit Deer. He had already figured out the living area of the Emerald Spirit Deer, and it wouldn't take long to find it. Found it. In just 3 seconds, Tang Hao found where the Emerald Spirit Deer was, and took Deng Mu rapidly towards it. At this very moment, the Emerald Spirit Deer was eating grass, unaware that disaster was imminent. A wave of pressure descended, and the Emerald Spirit Deer fainted instantly, without any chance to resist. Deng Mu looked at that Emerald Spirit Deer and curiously asked, "Grandfather, is this Emerald Spirit Deer the spirit beast that will provide me with my second spirit ring?" He knew quite a bit about the Emerald Spirit Deer. It was a spirit beast with life attributes as its main focus, and many support system spirit masters would choose the Emerald Spirit Deer. Tang Hao came before the Emerald Spirit Deer, put Deng Mu down, and replied, "That's right, this is a spirit beast grandfather carefully selected for you. This Emerald Spirit Deer is 12,000 years old." Hearing this, Deng Mu thanked Tang Hao. "Grandfather, you've worked hard." Tang Hao waved his hand. "It's nothing, hurry up and kill it, then absorb its spirit ring." After saying that, he cracked open the Emerald Spirit Deer's skull, making it easier for Deng Mu to kill this 10,000-year Emerald Spirit Deer. Deng Mu nodded to indicate he understood. The clear sky hammer appeared in his hand, and he smashed it fiercely towards the Emerald Spirit Deer's brain. After the Emerald Spirit Deer's brain was smashed by Deng Mu, a black spirit ring flew out from the Emerald Spirit Deer's corpse. Looking at the 10,000-year spirit ring before him, Deng Mu sat cross-legged on the ground and began to absorb the 10,000-year spirit ring in front of him. Hiss. Tang San, who was reading, inexplicably felt as if his brain had been pricked by a needle, and he couldn't help but gasp. Zyro Wu, who was beside him, heard Tang San's voice and asked with concern, "Third brother, what's wrong with you?" Tang San rubbed his temples and said, "It's nothing, my head just hurts a little." He was incredibly puzzled in his heart. What had happened in the last 2 days? His whole body was inexplicably painful. Every once in a while there would be inexplicable pain. This pain was unbearable, making him feel like life was worse than death. It felt as if someone who was bored out of their mind was holding a hammer and constantly hammering him. Tang San felt it was unlikely that such a person existed, Who would be so bored and have nothing better to do than to hammer themselves for fun? What would be the point? Now he was a bit conflicted about whether to go find the goddess of life and have her help him treat this illness. His self-esteem did not allow him to go find the goddess of life and let others know that he was no longer capable. It was simply too embarrassing. If the god of destruction knew about this, he would be able to mock him every single day. After struggling for a moment, Tang San chose to silently endure it. For the sake of the God King's dignity, this matter could not be known by others. Fortunately, he still had an illegitimate child in the lower realm. Otherwise, his Tang clan would be considered to have no descendants. He truly could not accept such a thing. It was even more painful than killing him. Zyro Wu reached out to help rub Tang San's head and said, "It must be because third brother has been working too hard on God realm matters that you've become like this." Hearing Zyro Wu's words, Tang San felt incomparably comfortable in his heart and revealed an expression of enjoyment. That's it for today's chapter. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, and subscribe to AI Otaku Studio for more stories. Check out my other channel, Infinite Novel Audio, and I'll see you in the next chapter.